Live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. It's going to be a whopper of a Wednesday edition. I got Evan with me right here in the world's headquarters. A little under the weather, but doing his best. Evan, appreciate you showing up, man, because Fancy Brian's in the happiest place on earth. Second happiest, right next to being here on the radio with me. So anyways, Fancy, I hope you're enjoying your vacation. And he'll be back next week. But this is an extremely big show. And I say that often, but today I mean it. Here's why. Former U.S. Senator Al Franken joining me in like 23 minutes on the airwaves. Al Franken, the only former U.S. Senator on tour. It's coming to the Barrymore Theater in Madison Friday night. Al Franken coming to the airwaves, joining me at 3:30. I'm pretty excited. And then Charles Franklin of the Marquette University Law School fame. Charles is a pollster extraordinaire, and he is going to drop the newest Wisconsin numbers at 4:30. And then we've got Ben Franklin joining live via Ouija board, just to see if anyone's paying attention. Apparently Evan was. He noted. No Ben Franklin. That's a little bit of a joke. Ha ha. Dom at 5 in the Happier Happy Hour. You can always be a part of the big program. Join us. 844-967-2789. Let's talk about the politicking going on. And we've talked a lot about the audio tapes. Lordy, there's tapes of Kevin McCarthy. And he's kind of brave with the Republican caucus leadership behind closed doors, his reaction to the January 6th. And I mean, hell, he called out a couple of his caucus, specifically, I think it was Matt Gaetz and Mo Brooks, said, these guys are dangerous. Maybe these guys should be taken off Twitter, kind of like the former president was, before they get somebody hurt. Hell, Steve Scalise reportedly said something to the effect, the pressure he's exerting Matt Gaetz specifically upon Liz Cheney, hell, that might be illegal. You think? So the latest on the Matt Gaetz, and, this banter's been going around, and we have a quote from the local congressman, Glenn Grothman. Can't wait to share that one with you. House Republicans, here's the headline at thehill.com this hour. House Republicans give McCarthy a standing ovation, and they brush off the tapes. Because they don't believe tapes, apparently. Wait for Grothman's quote. Let me start here. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy got a standing ovation in a Wednesday House GOP conference meeting. The caucus loves his ass after he addressed leaked recordings of his comments in the aftermath of January 6th, according to members and sources in the room. I was not there. I'll have to take it from anonymous sources. The action from McCarthy's colleagues marks the clearest symbol yet that the revelation may not have hurt his chances at taking the speaker's gavel if Republicans win the House. Well, let's see if we can prevent that. Now, McCarthy told members that the damning quotes from January 10th, 2021 leadership call, during which he said he would suggest former President Donald Trump resign if impeached, and wondered if GOP members could be kicked off social media, were simply the leader speculating on different scenarios. A little speculation. According to Rep. Robert Adderholt of Alabama, Republican, again, this is their caucus. Here's the quote. He just said that we're going to lay out different things of what could be. At this point, I take his word for it. Well, the other day he lied, right? He said, I never told Trump he should resign. And then the authors, new book, and apparently they've got tape. They had tape. They had literal tape, and they dropped it the next day. And Kevin McCarthy, proven a bold-faced liar. And he came out yesterday, if my memory serves, and McCarthy said, well, I only suggested I might do that. I never actually asked the former president to resign. Well, clearly you lack courage, sir. Anyways, back to this, because I want to get to Grothman here soon. The message during the Wednesday meeting was that Republicans need to keep pressing forward with what they're doing to win control of the chamber after the election. Even the conference's most conservative members said that their constituents are more concerned about high food and gas prices than what McCarthy said, and saw news of McCarthy's comments as an attempt to divide the conference. I'd like to divide their conference, surely. Several members added that they had not listened to the tapes. Oh, I don't need to know. I'm going to keep my head in the sand. Better to not know. Isn't that what they used to do with Trump's tweets? Oh, I hardly even looked. Did he say something? I'm unaware. Can't comment. That's what they used to say. Here are some of the current quotes. Here's one from Rep. Barry Loudermilk, not quieter milk, Loudermilk from Georgia. This is a distraction, folks. Come on. This is simply a distraction by the left trying to drive a wedge in a very unified Republican Party in a very unified conference. Oh, they're unified. Here's Congressman Glenn Grothman, as the former president used to call him, and he just let him do it. The Trumpiest of all the congressmen, he was voted literally, Glenn Grothman from Wisconsin's 6th congressional district. Grothman's actually his name, but Trump called him Grothman. So he called himself Grothman, seemed like for a while. But anyways, Grothman said he had not listened to the audio and warned that not everything in the newspaper can be believed. Unless you're a member of the press, nobody gives a damn about January 6th, Grothman said. Nobody cares. I don't even know why we have these conversations. A little bit more here. Not every member was willing to completely brush off the tapes. Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene said that she spoke in the conference meeting and hoped to see McCarthy and Minority Whip Steve Scalise will apologize for their comments about Rep. Matt Gaetz. How dare they cast aspersions at Matt Gaetz, the one that's accused of trying to turn a mob against his colleague, Liz Cheney, in a perhaps illegal or dangerous fashion. Here's what Marjorie, or what we call her, Perjury Taylor Greene. All we need to be accountable for our words. I've had to do that before, and that we need to apologize when we say something wrong. Oh yeah, you not so good on the apology part, Perjury Taylor Greene. Greene said that it was hurtful to hear McCarthy suggest members be removed from social media, but said his team has been helpful in assisting her with Twitter after her personal account was banned from the platform. So McCarthy's trying to get her back on, I guess. A lot of this stuff is just drama that the American people don't care about, Greene said. Heard her on Righty Whitey Talk Radio today, Marjorie, Perjury Taylor Greene, over on Clay and Buck. Anyways, one last quote. Matt Gaetz, he stood accused of perhaps targeting violence against his colleague, Liz Cheney. Here's what he had to say. Gaetz was less forgiving and said he confronted Scalise in the meeting, asking for reasoning behind his comment that calling Rep. Liz Cheney anti-Trump was illegal. He didn't have one. It was pathetic, Gaetz told The Hill. I think it was a little worse than that, Gaetz, but whatever. McCarthy had said Gaetz was putting people in jeopardy with his remarks following the riot. He was particularly concerned with the comments the Florida Republican made about Liz Cheney. According to the Times, she had already taken heat from Trump supporters after being critical of the then president. Well, let me bring you, fine audience, with me to a little article. Greg Sargent, the plumb line at the Washington Post. This one about Tucker, rhymes with Tucker Carlson over at the Foxy News. And the headline here, what Tucker Carlson's fury at Kevin McCarthy says about the GOP. And Evan, do we have this sound? I think there's still time to play it. Let's play a little snippet of what Tucker, rhymes with Tucker, had to say on the Foxy News last night. Play for the people.
Kevin McCarthy of California told his close friend Liz Cheney that he hoped the social media companies would censor more conservative Republicans in Congress. Donald Trump, the sitting president, had already been silenced by those companies, but McCarthy wanted the tech oligarchs to do more, to force disobedient lawmakers off the internet. Quote, can't they take their Twitter accounts away too? Those are the tape-recorded words of Congressman Kevin McCarthy, a man who in private turns out sounds like an MSNBC contributor. And yet, unless conservatives get their act together right away, Kevin McCarthy or one of his highly liberal allies like Elise Stefanik is very likely to be Speaker of the House in January. That would mean we will have a Republican Congress led by a puppet of the Democratic Party. So you wouldn't know any of this in Kevin McCarthy.
Ooh, that's got to sting a little. Kevin McCarthy is a puppet of the Democratic Party. Tucker rhymes with Tucker, Carlson said on Fox News. Now, I thought this was a unified caucus. Giving the standing O to Kevin McCarthy, not for his courage, of course, because he didn't actually, according to him, ask the former president to resign. So they're not saluting his courage. It's not because he did the right thing. The right thing, of course, in their mind is minimizing the January 6th, moving on from the January 6th, not holding any of his caucus terribly accountable, certainly. Hell, man, get them back their Twitter accounts if you can. So we're going to come back. More conversation about Kevin McCarthy. And you cannot call yourself a unified caucus if you don't have the support of Foxy News. Come back with us. Al Franken joining me very soon. I'm very excited. Al Franken, first time I've ever had the former senator on the big show. If you want tickets for Friday night, you better call the Barrymore Theater. I think they were nearly out. They may be out. I'm not sure if there are any tickets left, but Al Franken coming to the Barrymore Friday night, the only former senator on tour. Come back. More Devil's Advocates. It will be a whopper of a Wednesday edition. Make it the greatest radio show ever. The Devil's Advocates is my passion. It must be. I've been doing it for a decade. Running two Wisconsin radio stations, providing the only platforms of truth and resistance against fascism in a critical swing state. That's a vital mission and a tremendous responsibility. And it all costs money. So support the mission and the show. Join and give at patreon.com at the Devil's Advocates Radio. Help me change hearts and minds and just maybe save democracy.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates, and he would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
The Devil's Advocates.
The plaintiff, Donald J. Trump, hereby serves his suit against the defendants, Hillary Clinton and her cohorts, orchestrated an unthinkable plot, one that shocks the conscience and is in the front of the nation's democracy. This week on Fox. You know what I mean? Like you're throwing a few too many adverbs and adjectives in this sentence.
One man, one mission. This is Watergate 2.
Making radio great again.
Treat yourself to some Wisco Home Goods natural lotions or sugar scrub in 2022. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our natural hand soaps, lotions, and sugar scrubs offer you the luxury you deserve. Wisco Home Goods self-care products come in a variety of scents you're sure to love. So go on, add a little pampering to your daily routine. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing self-care and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, a hump day, a whopper of a Wednesday edition. Al Franken joining me in about 10 minutes. Stick around for him. But topically, I want to talk about Tucker rhymes with Tucker Carlson. And he got just furious last night talking about Kevin McCarthy. And Greg Sargent, over here at the Washington Post, sharing a little of this article with you. The plumb line, he's got a few opinions to offer. Once again, leaked audio was captured of House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy privately admitting the truth about the dangers posed by Donald Trump in the MAGA movement. Only this time the leak has triggered, as it were, Tucker Carlson's fury. In the latest installment, the California Republican worried just after the insurrectionist violence that Trump's allies in the House might incite violence against other lawmakers. This comes after leaked audio of McCarthy suggesting he might call on Trump to resign over the coup attempt. No, I didn't say that. I read on. In both cases, McCarthy never acted on his fears. That's so courageous, Kevin, which is reviving a familiar argument from commentators. The Republicans fully understand the threat that Trump poses, but are too cowardly to do anything about it. As Sargent writes, this is partly true, but it misses another part of the story. I'm talking about the degree to which Republicans have refrained from holding Trump and his allies accountable for their crimes against democracy for cynical instrumental purposes as an affirmative act designed to accomplish a concrete end, keeping his voters engaged and in the GOP coalition. Carlson's angry rant on Fox News about McCarthy on Tuesday night helps illustrate the contours of this. What enraged Carlson was McCarthy's suggestion on the audio that Twitter perhaps should have canceled GOP reps for trafficking in rhetoric that might result in violence. You heard the sound. Can't they take their Twitter accounts away too? McCarthy wondered aloud. Kevin McCarthy is a puppet of the Democratic Party, roared Tucker in response. Carlson lambasted McCarthy for wanting social media companies to censor more conservative Republicans. He called on conservatives to get their act together to prevent McCarthy from becoming the next House Speaker. He is in line, or at least the party would seem to indicate, if they win the House, Kevin McCarthy's their guy, saying they should not be satisfied with his leadership. I wouldn't be. What's key here is Carlson's effort to mobilize conservative voters against the GOP leadership and McCarthy in particular. This might fail. McCarthy seems to have solid support in the GOP conference. Hell, he got a standing O today, right, folks? But he does not, he does have to worry about efforts to turn millions of Trump voters against him with charges of disloyalty to Trump and the MAGA movement. That's all they've got, really. They've got a big lie. But the big lie is terribly engaging of the base. So you got to keep telling the big lie. Let me read on. What McCarthy seems to have discovered soon after the Capitol riot is that to avoid antagonizing or alienating those voters, he must, above all, refrain from treating that event as an extremely grave moment requiring a serious political response. This isn't what McCarthy thought at the outset. Traitor to Trump that he is, he initially seemed genuinely appalled by the horrifying and deadly violence and possibility of more to come. For instance, on the latest audio, McCarthy said several days after the attack that far-right lawmakers were putting people in jeopardy with incendiary attacks on Rep. Liz Cheney for thinking Trump should be held accountable for the violence. McCarthy also seemed sincerely rattled that writers brought rope and by the number of House Republicans that attended the rally. Soon after, of course, McCarthy realized the error of his ways and has spent the last year minimizing and helping to cover up those events. This is what gets widely denounced as cowardice, with the claim usually being that GOP leaders would like Trump to disappear, but they won't say so. Let me pull this one down closer to conclusion. I want you to hear the end part here. Nicole Hemmer, the author of Partisans, A New History of the GOP, notes a tension here. After tolerating extremes, let's just say, these elites sometimes did try to purge them from the conservative movement. It's the same movement that embraced Joe McCarthy. It's the same movement that accepted the John Birchers, right? Because it motivated the base. It turned people out to vote. And Republicans in this day and age cannot win elections without the lunatic fringe. A little bit more here from Greg Sargent's piece. But elites often faced extreme blowback for it, Himmer said. This led them to the realization you can't purge your base since the GOP needs these people to win elections, and that's where the energy in the party is. In this sense, Himmer notes, McCarthy's handling of this situation and Carlson's attacks on him over his perceived lapse into taking January 6th seriously are not outside the historical norm for the GOP. A little bit more, a quote, McCarthy has a genuine visceral reaction to the events of January 6th. Republicans who pointed to January 6th and said, this is an outrage, found themselves in the midst of pretty overwhelming backlash. As a result, Himmer noted McCarthy learned very quickly that the base didn't have a problem with January 6th, leading Republicans to continue to downplay these horrors. You can call that cowardice if you want. I'd say it's a whole lot worse. So to catch all that, Republicans have done the calculus. The fringe is their base. Those that would advocate for violence, those that would, turn on their own, that's their base. That's what they want. And you can't turn on the base. You can't chop off the cancerous arm because the arm is half the body, or at least a part of the body. You know what I'm saying? You cannot get rid of the horror of this Republican Party because you can't win elections without them. So Tucker's outraged, not because, Kevin McCarthy got caught on tape saying some things. Kevin McCarthy got outraged. Damn it, man. I'm screwing up the math here. Let's just turn to what comes next. I talked about it a lot. I feel like it's still a Monday mouth anyways. Al Franken is next. He is a fine humorist. He is the only former U.S. Senator on tour. Right now, he's coming to the Barrymore Theater this Friday night. Check with them if you would like to see Al live. But if you want to hear him, stick around. He's next on the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Everybody's disappointed with you, Kevin McCarthy.
Friends don't let friends spread fake news. Make sure to follow Devil Radio on Facebook and Twitter and stay up to date with the most important stories of the day.
2/3 of U.S. senators are millionaires, including Ron Johnson, who married into a billionaire family. I'm Tom Nelson, not a millionaire, just the son of a Lutheran pastor who approves this message. I need your help to get to the Senate to make sure people like Johnson finally pay their fair share. Go to nelson4wi.com, that's F-O-R, if you can give a few bucks so we can make sure everyone has a voice. Paid for by Nelson for Wisconsin.
When we built the Devil Radio World Headquarters in Madison, it was filthy with construction dust, a real mess. I called Magnific Cleaning Services and they made it shine. A few days later, we moved in and created a whole new mess. Magnific Cleaning Services made it shine again. Now Magnific Cleaning Services is the only cleaners I trust with the keys to my company. They clean Devil Radio affordably and with great attention to detail. Find them online at magnificservice.com for a free estimate. Tell them Devil Radio.
I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. Stocks finished mixed. The Dow up 61 points. China is battling its largest outbreak since the pandemic was first reported in Wuhan late in 2019.
Shanghai authorities announced they would start testing city residents over the next few days to determine which districts were lower risk. Those areas in the city that have achieved societal zero COVID could see some measure of limited freedom. Meanwhile, Beijing is in the middle of mass testing millions of residents after cases were discovered just days earlier. Nervous Beijing residents had started stockpiling food and supplies after seeing how Shanghai struggled with supplies during lockdown. I'm Karen Chamas.
Dr. Anthony Fauci says the country is out of the pandemic phase of the coronavirus with new infections, hospitalizations, and deaths, and is becoming an endemic disease occurring regularly in certain areas. The challenge is how to keep improving the situation. I'm Ed Donahue.
Straight Talk Wireless now has the new iPhone 13 with cinematic mode, which lets you focus on what matters. And with Straight Talk, you can focus on getting the best deal. Our Silver Unlimited plan is just $45 a month for unlimited talk, text, and data. And it runs on the largest, most dependable networks, now with nationwide 5G. With the iPhone 13 on Straight Talk, you can share whatever you want, wherever you want. Straight Talk Wireless. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com.
That's the sound of your KFC chicken sandwich order. That's what happens next. Your chicken is Kentucky Fried Order. And that's the sound of your chicken being put on a brioche bun. Brioche buns don't make a lot of noise. Then we add sauce and pickles and serve your sandwich to you piping hot. Order the KFC chicken sandwich. It's Kentucky Fried to order on the KFC app or at KFC.com. At participating locations, prices may vary.
Each stew.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. According to the Wisconsin Employee Trust Fund, teacher retirements in the state dropped 17% last school year compared to the previous year, surprising experts that were worried retirement trends would continue from the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. This week, Department of Revenue Secretary Peter Barca said the state of Wisconsin is expected to end the current two-year budget cycle with a $3.8 billion surplus, leaving Wisconsin in the best fiscal shape it has been over the last 50 years. The Chippewa Falls Police Department have announced they have a juvenile in custody in relation to the investigation of the death of 10-year-old Billy Peters earlier this week. The Village of Cottage Grove's board is considering whether or not to ban Delta-8 THC, which is a cannabinoid currently legal in Wisconsin but shares similarities to marijuana. The Village Board's Law Enforcement Committee decided to table the decision for now, but plan to study the issue further. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. It's going to be a whopper of a Wednesday edition. I got a big guest joining me live via phone right now. He is Al Franken. Al, welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show.
Well, thank you, Mike.
Al, I understand you're on a tour, the only former U.S. Senator on tour or something of that sort. Al, you're coming to Madison, Wisconsin. The Barrymore Theater Friday night. I tell people to call for tickets. I think you might be sold out, Al. People love you here.
Well, I think it's very close to that, so hurry if you want to. I think, we're very close to sold out, but there, as of yesterday, there's some tickets left. But it was kind of not many.
Al, what's the nature of the show Friday night? This tour you're on, I assume some humor, some satire. What's the nature of the performance you put on, sir?
Well, it's stand-up comedy. It is. There's a lot of politics and a lot of political satire. I'm a big fan. I've always been a big fan of stand-up. I started in show business with a partner, Tom Davis. We were two of the original SNL writers, and we met in high school and did stand-up together. But we were a team and did a very different thing than monologists do. And so I've been kind of working on this for quite a while, and it's comedy. It's comedy. It's laughs, but as everyone can imagine, it has a lot of politics in it, and a lot of my experience is from the Senate, including with Ron Johnson, and so I'll be talking about him, but it's comedy. It's comedy. It's laughs.
Well, Al, I've got to ask you, what has your experience with my pal Ron Johnson here in the state of Wisconsin? He used to come on my little liberal talk radio show, Al, like 25 times. I've had lots of cracks at this guy, and we've made lots of news on him. He didn't know the drinking age. Hell, there's lots of stuff that Ron Johnson doesn't know. But what's your impression of the man?
Well, that doesn't surprise me. He didn't seem to know a lot when he was in the Senate. When McCain did that thumbs down on the Save the ACA, a couple weeks later, Ron Johnson went on some Wisconsin radio show and said the reason that McCain had put the thumbs down was that it was because of his brain cancer, that he was addled. And at this time, John was very sick, and he had, after that vote, gone back to Arizona, and I didn't know whether I was going to see him again. So I told John that I was going to write him a bad news, good news joke every week. And the bad news part of it was always, the bad news, you have brain cancer. The good news is. And then, so after Johnson did that, I wrote, the bad news is you have brain cancer. The good news is that Ron Johnson's ass cancer has moved to his mouth.
Folks, you are. I'm sorry to interrupt. Folks, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, no, it's just that, and then thank God. Well, and then John, I didn't know if I was going to see him again. He came back one more time, and when he came back, he came into the chamber. He saw me. He pointed at me. He said, "That man earned every cent he ever made, not here, but at Saturday Night Live." And he was an amazing guy, and Johnson's just an idiot. And also just, I mean, he just spouts nonsense, and you guys got to beat him. You got to beat him.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. I've got a fine guest live via phone. He is Al Franken, humorist, former U.S. Senator. And Al, they're listening to you on KTNF AM 950 in Minneapolis right now. We're live right there. But Al, they miss you in politics, I suspect. Do you ever miss politics, sir?
Well, I miss being in the Senate. It was a place where I could get stuff done. And I also, sometimes when I watch hearings, I get a little frustrated. During the Jackson hearing, I just wish that my colleagues had been a little tougher on my Democrat colleagues, on the Republican colleagues that I thought were disgraceful. So yeah, I miss it. I miss being in that. And, you know, I accomplished a lot when I was there. And, you know, I do miss it.
Well, I suspect they still think of you as Senator Franken in Minneapolis and across Minnesota. I know I still do at times. Al, how did your experience as a humorist, as a writer for SNL, did that prepare you well for politics?
Well, I thought it would. But what I learned is that when when I decided to run, and it was against Norm Coleman for Paul Wellstone's seat. I was a friend of Paul's. I thought that SNL was going to be like a feather in my cap. And it turned out the people of Minnesota really didn't see the connection between comedy and the U.S. Senate. And if anything, it was sort of my comedy was used against. I'll give you a couple. Like one of the first interviews I had with the press was a guy said to me, "When you were at SNL, did you ever do cocaine?" And I said, "Well, yes, but only a little, and just so that I could stay awake long enough to make sure that Belushi didn't do too much." Now, most people like you recognize that last part as a joke, but this guy wrote it up as Al Franken conceded that while at Saturday Night Live he did cocaine, but said he only did a little so that he could stay awake late enough to make sure that cast member John Belushi didn't do too much. Belushi later died of a drug overdose. Now, that was sort of I learned that the press really has a vested interest in not getting jokes, right? So everything I ever had done was put through the dehumorizer, and so it was, you know, it was a real challenge. And but Minnesotans, I think, kind of got it. Actually, you know, I had written a magazine article in like the late '90s, warning parents that they should monitor what their kids were getting online. But I wrote it satirically. So I said, I help, you know, or my son did a great fourth grade report last week on bestiality, and the kids in his class just loved it. He downloaded a lot of great visual aids, and the kids in the class just loved them. And so that was written up, you know, Al Franken helped his son prepare a report on bestiality. And so Chuck Schumer, who is head of the Democratic Senate Campaign Committee, said, oh, well, you know, Al has too much baggage, it's going to hurt him. And so we had to do like focus groups to see if this really was. And so, you know, when you do that, your pollster like asks questions like, you know, if you knew Al Franken told jokes about bestiality, would you be more likely to vote for him or less likely?
How did that focus test? What did the voters think of bestiality jokes, if I may ask, sir?
Well, they would say less likely then, but then we would explain what the context was, and it turned out Minnesotans got irony and satire. And so I was able to convince, especially Harry Reid, that this wasn't really a problem. And I won. I clobbered Coleman by 312 votes, as you may remember.
I recall. Yes, sir. Devil's Advocates Radio, fine guest, Al Franken, former senator from the great state of Minnesota. He's on tour, Madison, coming to the Barrymore Theater this Friday night. Perhaps a few tickets still available. Call the Barrymore box office if you'd like to see his stand-up. Al, I got to tell you, one of the first books of yours I read, Rush Limbaugh is a big fat idiot. He has left the right-wing talk radio sphere. Al, you were a lefty talker. You were part of the original Air America lineup, and you're beloved here in Madison. I mean, we've carried on that legacy here. I'm the station owner. I'm the little progressive station that could here in Madison, Wisconsin. Al,
right.
Progressive radio, what do you think its place is in the media landscape? Understanding that, you know, behind Rush Limbaugh, there were hundreds of other righty-whitey talkers ready to go and step up and tell the new lies. Al, does left-wing talk radio have a place in this landscape?
Well, you know, Air America kind of, you know, shot itself in the foot, like right out of the starting gate, because we just had no money. And so we didn't have strong signals in a lot of cities. For example, in Minneapolis, the signal was not particularly strong. And, but also we didn't have money for billboards or any kind of advertising. And the guy who started the thing kind of misled everybody about how much money he had. And and if you think about like Fox News or something like that, they had billions of dollars to get going, right? And I think that's part of it. I don't know if just by nature, people who drive around, you know, that the Rush Limbaughs, the Sean Hannitys, all those people, and then all the local versions of them, if there's some appeal about the spewing that these right-wing talk show hosts does, that is, you know, people love to get agitated, and we've just seen it. The whole reason for Rush Limbaugh is a big fat idiot and other observations and lies and lying liars who tell them was I was saying that the right wing was disseminating disinformation and that it was dangerous. And I don't know what's happened to that.
Yeah,
right?
Fortunately, that's all ended.
Right.
Nothing but the truth from the right now, Al.
Yeah, yeah. And it's, when I did Lies and Lying Liars, people were going like, you can't call people liars. And I went like, well, they're lying. And now everyone calls everybody else a liar all the time. But it's just and it's gotten worse and worse, hasn't it? And of course, a lot of that's social media, but it's all very, very dangerous.
Al Franken, former U.S. Senator from the great state of Minnesota. People are listening there right now. If you are in Madison or the area and you'd like to see Al Franken, come to the Barrymore Theater this Friday night. Perhaps a few good seats still available, but you better call the Barrymore Theater box office. Al, final thoughts. We got like 45 seconds. Ted Cruz, any final thoughts on Ted Cruz?
On in Detroit?
What's that, sir? No, not Detroit. Chicago, Minneapolis, and Wisconsin primarily, sir.
Okay, going to be in Detroit the following night, but not Rush. Cruz. I have a whole Ted Cruz section in the show. I've always said that I probably like Ted Cruz more than most of my colleagues like Ted Cruz, and I hate Ted Cruz.
Al, I second that emotion, sir. Thank you so much for joining me here on the Devil's Advocates. Hope to see you Friday night at the Barrymore Theater. Thank you. Have a great show.
Come backstage. Okay, Mike. Bye.
Thank you.
He's running first, second, third. He stopped between third and home. What the heck?
Ooh, that's not the time to stop. And now's not the time to stop wearing a mask. Vaccines are a game changer, but the game's not over. Mask up until you're vaccinated. Let's finish strong. For more information, please visit cdc.gov/masks. A message by CDC and the Ad Council.
Spruce up your home with soy candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents. Did you know our candle jars are also double old-fashioned glasses? That's right, buy a candle and you get a free cocktail glass. Check out our blog at wiscohomegoods.com/blog for more information. That's wiscohomegoods.com/blog.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
But Don, we've been following a couple of big stories this week. Truck convoy leader has no idea where he is and is driving in circles around I-495. He didn't know precisely where he was going anyways or where he was at the time. Apparently, he put the convoy back on the road, headed back up north, and he's back in Scranton. So
I totally would have protested this tyranny, but damn, the traffic was so bad.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstad at the Minocqua Brewing Company, and I am proud to introduce you to Choice, our new pink grapefruit flavored hard seltzer. Choice was made in collaboration with Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin, and 5% of the proceeds from every can goes to support them and their fight for reproductive freedom. Choice hard seltzer tastes great and comes in at only 105 calories per can. Go to our website, MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, to find where you can buy Choice hard seltzer.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
I know a place. Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Want to thank our most recent guest, a fine one, former U.S. Senator Al Franken. You know him, you love him. In fact, he has sold out the show at the Barrymore Theater this Friday night. We've gotten word from the box office, no more tickets. So I'm sorry, I don't mean to dangle out the fine stand-up of Al Franken and not give you a means of access, but we appreciate it. And apparently he's got a show Saturday night in Detroit, D-Town. Maybe Dom and you could road trip. Let him know. Call us, 844-967-2789. We'll coordinate the travel, if you know what I'm saying. Coming up in the next big hour, we've got Charles Franklin. He is a pollster extraordinary. I'm trying to think what he used to be. Well, he's always been a pollster extraordinary. He's a friend of ours. Hopefully that's a current tense. So anyways, Charles Franklin coming up at 4:30. New polling out in the great state of Wisconsin. I'll just give you a tease. It is a hell of a horse race suddenly in the U.S. senatorial race on the Democratic side. We've seen movement, and Alex Lassery has nearly caught the front runner, who is Mandela Barnes, if you're not from the state of Wisconsin. Now, we've been watching this race very closely. I had one of the fine candidates, U.S. Senator or senatorial candidate, Sarah Godlewski, in studio with me on Monday. I had Lasry very recently. I mean, hell, we had Mandela very recently, and we had Tom Nelson very recently. And technically, we had Peter Pekarski, also a candidate, very recently. Godlewski's moved up slightly. She spent about $1 million. Lasry has spent something like $4.4 million, and he's closed the gap. It's like 3, according to the new polling. But 6%, something like that, 6% plus margin of error. The number of Democrats polled, by the time you take this sample and you break it down into Dems and Republicans, gets to be a relatively small sample. But I got to think Lasry's team's probably doing cartwheels right now. And, if I was Corey and the boys and girls running the Mandela Barnes for U.S. Senate campaign, I'd be a little nervous. And, if I was Godlewski's campaign, I'd take some heart in the fact that, at least they moved up slightly since the last poll. I hope $1 million got a few people's notice. And Tom Nelson, Tom's probably there in the first tier, but then there's like 7 other candidates, and it could be a jumbled mess because like half the people surveyed, half the people polled didn't even have a strong preference. So you take, just the Dem voters, and then you say, who's your favorite? And approximately half of them said, I haven't made up my mind yet. So, take that polling for what it's worth. But Charles Franklin, the fine pollster, joins me at 4:30. But I want to tell a little story from my backyard about a woman who's suddenly become Big Lie Becky. Rebecca Clayfish. She is a Republican candidate, and she's currently the big front runner in the newest polling out of Wisconsin. 3+ Becky in the race. The newest entrant into the Republican field is a 100 billionaire kind of Republican sort of self-funder. Think Donald Trump sort. His family owns, ironically, a big construction company. Tim Michael's his name. And as I was booking our pal Charles Franklin to join me on this big show, he said, damn it, Michael's joined the race too late. So he is not reflected in the polling that currently has Clayfish way ahead of her opponents. Kevin Nicholson, whose only claim to fame, as near as I can tell, is he's got a sugar daddy, Uline of the Ulines, and Tim Ramjam, who's in Rantham, whose entire electoral platform is let's overturn the last election. And they do have some very specific polling about people's confidence in the last election. And the April election and the Gableman investigation. So we'll get there in the next hour. But I want to talk about Big Lie Becky Clayfish. Here's the headline at the Journal Sentinel. Remember, she's the front runner. With no evidence, Rebecca Clayfish, Wisconsin candidate for governor, well, she's now saying the 2020 election was rigged. Did you have to, Becky? Republican candidate for governor Rebecca Clayfish is escalating her criticism of how the last presidential election was carried out in Wisconsin, calling it rigged, a rigged contest, despite rulings and recounts confirming the outcome. The characterization comes as a 4th candidate enters the Republican primary with the ability to pour millions into his campaign and a backstory that could appeal to the head of the party, former President Donald Trump. Ooh, what if Trump endorses? That could change everything. Now, 17 months after the 2020 election, grievances over its outcome loom over Wisconsin's 2022 races as Trump continues to pressure Republicans to keep hope alive. Well, to keep alive his false claims of widespread fraud to maintain momentum for his expected 2024 campaign for president. And recounts, court rulings, state audits, and a study by a prominent conservative group have confirmed President Joe Biden. Breaking news, Becky. President Joe Biden won Wisconsin in 2020 by nearly 21,000 votes. None of the reviews have shown fraud manipulated the outcome of that election. Like even the Republicans that actually did the audits and stuff here in the state of Wisconsin, Didn't find any fraud. Anyways, Big Lie Becky Clayfish on Tuesday compared decisions made by Wisconsin's elections officials to navigate the coronavirus pandemic to those of NFL quarterback Tom Brady in 2015 when he was accused of deflating footballs to gain an advantage for the New England Patriots in a playoff game. I often compare this to Deflategate, Clayfish said in a Tuesday interview on WTAQ. They won the game. Did they win legitimately? Did they replay the game? These are the questions we are facing right now at the highest level of governance, she said. I can honestly, pardon me, let me make sure I get the quote. So I'm being honest. I can't honestly tell you the results in Pennsylvania and in Arizona and other states where there are questions. There's not really any other states where there are questions, Rebecca. They even did the cyber digit audit in Arizona. So that's a disingenuous statement as well. I just point that out. But here's the rest of her quote. I'm focused exclusively on Wisconsin. And what I can tell you about Wisconsin is that it feels like it was rigged. It feels like it was rigged. Now, that's the Republican frontrunner for governor of the state of Wisconsin. And her current tenor is, yeah, probably rigged. Probably rigged. She went on to say something to the effect that, you know, this Tim Michaels, this rich guy that jumped into the race, well, he apparently doesn't believe it's rigged. Here is what this article says. Clayfish says candidates who don't address the 2020 election should be disqualified in voters' minds, referring to Tim Michaels. That's the rich guy, a wealthy construction executive from Waukesha County who entered the race last week. Michaels held a rally Monday to launch his campaign for governor and did not mention the last presidential election in his 9-minute speech. But he did go down to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring in the ass, if you know what I'm saying. And I believe he also probably believes it's a rigged election, but he can't prove it. None of them can.
Hi, I'm a pleasant voice reminding you to enable Devil Radio before playing Devil Radio. First, you have to enable Devil Radio, which should be natural to Wisconsinites. Just say, Alexa, enable Devil Radio. Then firmly and confidently say, Alexa, play Devil Radio. This should conjure the Devil Radio app, available at the App Store.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey, it's Rocker, and I'm lifting off from Sal's Tomato Pies, enjoying a brand new cocktail called the Cosmonaut. It's an improved take on the classic cocktail with Madison-made Rocker vodka, featuring orange liqueur, house-made citrus cordial, lime, and cranberry. Experience liftoff with the Cosmonaut, the new cocktail featuring Rocker vodka at Sal's Tomato Pies in Sun Prairie, Madison, and the Dark Horse Art Bar. Must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Devil Radio app.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. Russia is cutting off natural gas to NATO members Poland and Bulgaria and is threatening to do the same to other countries. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki is not surprised.
This is the type of step, the type of almost weaponizing energy supplies that we had predicted that Russia could take in this conflict.
The move is seen as an effort to punish and divide the West over its support for Ukraine. European leaders are calling it blackmail. In the midst of the war, Russia and the U.S. reached an agreement, a prisoner exchange. The American being exchanged is Paula Reed's son, Trevor.
Something you've been hoping and praying for. It's finally come true. And for me, I guess it won't really soak in until I get to hold him, give him a hug.
Reed is a Marine Corps veteran. Returning to Russia will be a convicted drug trafficker serving a long prison sentence in the U.S. Jen Psaki at the White House says the prisoner exchange with Russia
does not change our approach or view, opposition, or the president's intention to put forward a package in the coming days to help continue to support the Ukrainians.
A follow-up report after the death in police custody of George Floyd finds discrimination by Minneapolis police, including stopping and arresting Black people at a higher rate than white people, using force more often on people of color, and maintaining a culture where racist language is tolerated. Minneapolis Human Rights Commissioner Rebecca Lucero says change will happen.
A consent decree with the city of Minneapolis and the Minneapolis Police Department is really unprecedented. Unlike previous events to reform policing in Minneapolis, a consent decree is a legally binding agreement that the parties are required by law to follow.
A seemingly divided Supreme Court heard arguments over Oklahoma's authority to prosecute some crimes on Native American lands following a 2020 high court decision. Stocks finished mixed, the Dow up 61 points. This is AP News.
Straight Talk Wireless now has the new iPhone 13 with cinematic mode, which lets you focus on what matters. And with Straight Talk, you can focus on getting the best deal. Our Silver Unlimited plan is just $45 a month for unlimited talk, text, and data. And it runs on the largest, most dependable networks, now with nationwide 5G. With the iPhone 13 on Straight Talk, you can share whatever you want, wherever you want. Straight Talk Wireless. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com.
That's the sound of your KFC chicken sandwich order. That's what happens next. Your chicken is Kentucky Fried to order. And that's the sound of your chicken being put on a brioche bun. Brioche buns don't make a lot of noise. Then we add sauce and pickles and serve your sandwich to you piping hot. Order the KFC chicken sandwich. It's Kentucky Fried to order on the KFC app or at KFC.com. At participating locations, the prices may vary.
I find your lack of Devil Radio 92.7 disturbing. Do not fail me again.
When you buy, you save at Knuckleheads. The Knuckleheads Vape Club and Wellness Club offer savings for using products you already enjoy. Knuckleheads also has savings like buy 2, get the 3rd disposable vape 50% off, buy 4, get 1 free on all cigars, and daily deals on all your favorite products. Visit Knucklehead CBD and Vapes, located in Madison on 520 State Street, or shop online at knuckleheads.shop. When you buy, you save at Knuckleheads.
The greatest radio show ever could be your greatest advertising investment ever. Partner with the Devil's Advocates and activate our loyal, educated, and engaged audience today. In-show interviews and sponsored special events considered across Wisconsin. Affordable digital and terrestrial ads available in Chicago and Minneapolis and directly on the Devil Radio app. Make a deal with the Devils and get the Devil's Advocates bump to your bottom line. Call or text 844-967-2789 today. Listen to your favorite political talkers no matter where you are. 92.7 FM in Madison and Eastern Dane County. 1580 AM Columbus, north of Madison, and for daytime east-west commutes on I-94. 101 FM in the Shaw. And 540 AM covering eastern Wisconsin all day and covering the Milwaukee Metro, the Wild Counties, Racine, and Kenosha 24/7. Download the free Devil Radio app for your smartphone and take both stations with you everywhere. No excuses, just listen.
This is the radio station you were looking for. Devil Radio 92.7. It surrounds us. It penetrates us. It binds the world together.
Help me, Devil Radio. You're my only hope.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. Despite Assembly Speaker Robin Vos stating last month that the Republican-authorized probe of the 2020 election would be wrapping up at the end of April, Speaker Vos released a statement extending the probe beyond that deadline, which has already been pushed back several times. The most recent extension comes after former President Donald Trump released a statement on Monday saying he would support primary candidates against any Wisconsin Republican state lawmaker that did not support the continuation of the probe. Speaker Vos and the Republican-led state assembly have authorized Gableman to spend at least $676,000 in taxpayer funds to conduct the probe that has produced no evidence supporting claims of widespread voter fraud, now 10 months into the investigation. Possibility for scattered snow flurries this morning with winds up to 10 miles an hour and a high of 46 degrees. Cloudy skies expected this evening with a 40% chance for rain throughout the night and an overnight low of 32 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, a whopper of a Wednesday edition. We've already had Al Franken, and we've got Charles Franklin, pollster extraordinaire, joining us at about 4:30 Central Time, going inside the numbers on the newest Wisconsin polling. And it is a horse race in the U.S. senatorial right now. In the Democratic primary, just 3 points, apparently, according to this polling, separate Mandela Barnes and Alex Lasry. We've got approval ratings on everyone from Tony Evers to Rojo. We'll talk about that. And the big lie effectively being polled by Charles Franklin, and confidence in the Gableman, whatever you call what he's doing. Well, that was polled as well. So we'll get to the polling numbers about 4:30. I've got a little taste of some polling, though, different polling. Morning Consult, Politico. And they pulled out, my understanding is, questions. What would be disqualifying actions for a candidate? If they did this, that'd be a step too far. Or at least it would be a major problem in your support for that candidate. And they polled Dems and independents and Republicans. So let's go through just 4 or 5 questions. What if your candidate was accused of sexual misconduct? Is it a major problem? Well, let's not forget the former president of the United States talking about Donald Trump had a few, 20 or so credible accusations against him. And there was an Access Hollywood tape. He just grabbed him by the, because he's a big star and they just let him do it. He'd tic-tac up and he'd just kiss him or grab him or grope him or whatever. So clearly that's not a problem for some, but here is what the polling says. Again, Political Morning Consult polling. Amongst Democrats, 83% say yes, that's kind of a big deal, a sexual misconduct allegation. Amongst independents, 77%. Amongst Republicans, nearly a supermajority, 66% say they'd have a problem with that. When it came to allegations of domestic violence against a candidate, Democrats, 81% said, yeah, that's a problem. 74% of independents and 67% of Republicans. So no shockers there. But here's where it gets a little shocking, or at least, telling, if nothing else. What if your candidate is accused of making racist remarks? Is that a big problem? If your candidate's just a little racist, drops a couple of N-bombs, is that a problem for you? Amongst Democrats, 80% said, yeah, that's kind of a problem. That's a major problem. Amongst independents, 59% also take issue with racist remarks. Amongst amongst Republicans, barely gets a 38% of Republicans take issue with racist remarks made by a candidate that they would support. Probably wouldn't even hurt them much. How about homophobia? If it were homophobic remarks, we're down to 25% of Republicans that would react. Would even think that that's a big deal. 25%. Amongst Democrats, it's like 71. Independents, about 50%. How about anti-Semitic behavior? 47% of Republicans have an issue with anti-Semitism. Be a big deal for them. The other 53% of the party, no big deal. Amongst Democrats, it's over 70% that perceive that as a major deal. So we got a little fascistic difference in the parties. You know what I'm saying? There's clearly a contrast here. And I find it very troubling. And back to Big Lie Becky Clayfish. Now, it was just yesterday, day before, I labeled Michael Big Lie Gableman. This big lie, this telling of the big lie. Well, you know, if we talk about what's the worst you could say about your candidate, sexual abuser, domestic violence, hell, a racist, homophobic, well, among some of those categories, Republicans barely yawn. Got no big issue with that. And you look at the greater tone of the Republican Party right now, right here in the state of Wisconsin, we have this playing out in real time. You got a new entree into the race, this Tim Michaels guy, right? Businessman, kind of Trumpy-like in that regard. Self-funder, although I'm not quite clear that Trump ever self-funded. Made a lot of big claims, at least. But this guy's apparently got millions of dollars, and he could shake up the Republican gubernatorial race. And suddenly, Rebecca Clayfish, as I'm now calling her, Big Lie Becky, she got scared. Clayfish is scared. She's been out there. She thought she'd be the only option. And she wasn't really worried about the Tim Ram jams. And so far, you know, she's holding a big lead against Kevin Nicholson. But this Michaels, this could be a game changer. Michaels has a solid claim to make as a Republican nominee, and this will be a sprint. She's been at it for years. Michaels can make up all that ground with just millions of dollars spent. Just ask Alex Lasry, right? So this will be getting interesting. But the fact that Rebecca Clayfish is now fully embracive of the rigged election in the state of Wisconsin, and she knows better. They all do. Robin Voss knows better. Rebecca Clayfish knows better. I'm less clear that Rantham knows or believes better, or perhaps even Gableman. God only knows what motivates that man at this late hour. But the candidate, Rebecca Clayfish, knows better, and hell, I suspect this Michaels knows a little bit better. Here is a little bit more from the article at the Journal Sentinel. We'll wrap this up. Clayfish said candidates who don't address the 2020 election should be disqualified in voters' minds. And she was referring to her new Republican opponent, Tim Michaels, a wealthy construction executive from Waukesha County. Michaels held a rally Monday to launch his campaign. Didn't exactly have a smooth rollout. I think Tommy Thompson made his campaign announcement for him. But anyways, had a little rally, gave a little 9-minute speech, and didn't talk about the rigged last election. How dare he leave that out of his launch video? But Michaels said in an interview earlier Monday that he has questions about the 2020 election. Well, of course he does. He's running as a Republican. That's the only way to do it. If you don't bring the fringe into the big tent, small tent, medium-sized tent of the Republican Party, well, you got no chance of winning. And if you look at the engagement level of those that feel like, well, we voted for Trump and we got screwed, it was rigged, to ignore the engagement levels of this massive part of the Republican base, well, it'd be disastrous. And that's why we see people like, you know, Big Lie Becky taking this tact. And to some small end, I mean, I think Ron Johnson is so enamored with the vote totals of Donald Trump back in 2016. Ron Johnson said, you know what? I got to go full crazy. I think part of this is an act. I don't think Ron Johnson is a substantially different person than he was back when I used to describe him as country club cordial. You know, if you met him at the grocery store, you wouldn't punch him, probably. You'd think, oh, nice enough guy. He'd probably let you cross, hold the door for you. He's country club cordial, or at least he used to be. But now he sees a solitary path to victory. And that is the encompassing, the incorporation of the big lie, of the fringe, of the engaged Republican base. Because if you can't win them over, you can't win. And you can't win in the Republican Party, apparently, by telling the truth. The truth won't set you free. The truth will cost you the primary. Then you never get a shot at Tony Evers. Again, a quote from this new entree, Tim Michaels. A lot of people have questions about the last election. So do I. He said on a righty-whitey interview on WISN, if we don't have fair, transparent elections, our whole system is going to come apart. Except that's not a problem. We did have fair, transparent elections. You just don't like the outcome. And we're going to get to some polling. Charles Franklin, again, has got brand new, hot off the presses polling from the state of Wisconsin. They polled Gableman. They polled the big lie. And they also polled Republican confidence in the April spring elections, 2022 elections. Well, Trump wasn't on the ballot. Are they going to have big qualms about the confidence of locally administered elections here in the state of Wisconsin? Might surprise you what the outcome of this new polling is. You're going to have to stick around for that. Here's a quote from Governor Tony Evers' campaign. Kayla Anderson, a campaign spokeswoman for Evers, said Clayfish's comments are injecting more chaos and division into Wisconsin elections. We don't need to waste more time and taxpayer money on this politically motivated exercise. Governor Evers plans to continue doing the right thing and fighting to ensure every eligible voter is able to participate in safe, fair, and secure elections. Now, a spokesman for Clayfish did not immediately answer questions from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. And we do know, and we reported this here, that Trump successfully pressured the capitulator-in-chief, Assembly Speaker Robin Vos, this week into keeping open the taxpayer-funded review of the 2020 election, overseen by former Supreme Court Justice Michael Big Lie Gableman. So the handyman, Robin Vos, is a full capitulator to the former president. Rebecca Clayfish comes out here on Wednesday, with the entry of a new candidate into the gubernatorial pool, and she's scared. Becky is scared. She's running scared, and she's running towards the big lie in the rigged elections because she knows she needs the rest of the base. She's got to be more MAGA than Rantham, perhaps. But this all makes me quite amused because it will make Rebecca Clayfish nearly unelectable in a general election. I think it makes all of them unelectable. Anyone that's still questioning the outcome of the 2020 election, I mean, would you hire that person to work for you? Even conservatives, really, if you can't be convinced by evidence and numbers and math and audits and Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty reports and Legislative Audit Bureau reports, what the hell does it take to convince you of something? Like facts, not fiction. Come back trying to tell the truth since like 10 years ago. What's that, 2012? More devil's advocates on the other side. Make it the greatest radio show ever. The Devil's Advocates is my passion. It must be. I've been doing it for a decade. Running 2 Wisconsin radio stations, providing the only platforms of truth and resistance against fascism in a critical swing state. That's a vital mission and a tremendous responsibility. And it all costs money. So support the mission and the show. Join and give at patreon.com at the Devil's Advocates Radio. Help me change hearts and minds and just maybe save democracy.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
The Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
There seemingly is a willingness amongst Republicans to subvert future elections. How troubling is that to you, man?
Yeah, I think it's more than troubling. It's the core issue in the upcoming elections in 22 and 24, and it's going to be seen that way by historians. These people are out to destroy the democracy. To me, that is the linchpin issue in the upcoming election.
To what end, Matt?
Do we destroy our democracy or not?
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter. Treat yourself to some Wisco Home Goods natural lotions or sugar scrub in 2022. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our natural hand soaps, lotions, and sugar scrubs offer you the luxury you deserve. Wisco Home Goods self-care products come in a variety of scents you're sure to love. So go on, add a little pampering to your daily routine. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing self-care and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
The Devil's Advocates. Sausage making never looked so good.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. New Marquette University Law School polling dropped today. Whenever it drops, we have the fine pollster extraordinaire, Charles Franklin. He joins us in about 10 minutes. But since we're talking Wisconsin, I want to come back and talk about the former Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan did a little panel discussion today, American Enterprise Institute. What, you didn't get invited? Nor I. But anyways, during the panel discussion at the American Enterprise Institute, Paul Ryan revealed that he had been frustrated by Trump's refusal to cut Social Security, Medicare, and other programs. That's pretty sad that Trump had more sense than Paul Ryan. So, you know, the Becky Clayfishes of the world that would go running towards the big lie in the rigged election, right? Well, let's consider what the old Republican mantra was. Let's cut Social Security, Medicare, and all the other programs. Here's Paul Ryan's quote. He and I fought about Medicare and entitlement reform all the time. And it became clear to me that there was no way he wanted to reach other than making good on a promise on repeal and replace, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. And it wasn't popular in his mind, said the former speaker. No kidding, Sherlock? Repealing Social Security, reforming Medicare and other programs, they're not popular? It wasn't popular in his mind, the former speaker continued, and therefore it wasn't going to be pursued. That was always really frustrating to me. You're such a soulless bastard, Paul Ryan. A little bit more. That was always really frustrating to me, but that gives you an example of where the right is now, which is either we don't touch it or we reform it, but repealing it is not in the cards. You want to repeal Medicare, Paul? That's what you're stuck on? No wonder you're no longer the speaker. U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, he went on the Foxy News. I think he was on Hannity, and he talked about the Democrats in the race against him. I'm going to quote here from Ron Johnson. I would just point out, unironically, I got invited on Fox News last Saturday. And here in the upper Midwest where I live, weather hasn't really gotten nice yet this year. It's been quite cold, still quite cold. Except last Saturday, it was supposed to be like 78, fun-loving degrees. Beautiful, gorgeous weather, sunny. And Crudy said, no way in hell am I suiting up and going on the Foxy News on the nicest day of the year. So now I got a quandary because I've been invited back on the Fox News. Oh, couldn't do last weekend. How about this weekend? Got called during the earlier show break. And, now I got a strong consideration because, I'm going to go party on Saturday night with some of my college roomies and they want me Sunday. I'm not sure if I'm going to blow off Fox News again. I'm strongly considering it. And I am a media whore. If you didn't notice, I usually accept every interview invitation. Kind of like Ron Johnson. He and I, media whores. We have that in common. And if he's going to go on Fox News, why not? Why not Crudy going on Fox News? Because someone's got to go clean up the messes, right? Go try telling a little truth on the Fox News channel. But still, man, I'm going to be pretty hungover on Sunday morning. I'm not sure if I want to get out of bed for Fox News. But Rojo got up for Fox News. Here's what he had to say. According to his own campaign press release, Senator Ron Johnson discusses Democratic dark money spending in Wisconsin Senate race on the Foxy News. I guess he got up. U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin, appeared on Foxy News with Hannity last night, where he discussed the Democrat dark money groups running ads against him in Wisconsin. Excerpts are below. Here's Ron, his campaign quoting, the candidate. Sean, so far I've been outspent by about 19.3 million to 5 million. And I don't even have a Democrat opponent. My bad. He would never call them a Democratic opponent. But what I have is a media that have been trying to take me out for the last 18 months. So I'm going to need a lot of help. Ron Johnson for Senate.com. If you want me to continue to pursue these investigations, Hillary's emails, Benghazi, Hunter Biden's laptop, hydroxychloroquine. Those are all the fine hearings that Ron has spearheaded. I'll need that financial help. Ron Johnson for Senate.com. Hannity, where's this money targeted against you coming from? Do we know? Rojo. Well, it's coming from those dark money groups that the Democrats just hate until they tap into and use to try and engage in the politics of personal destruction. Now, you do that mostly to yourself, Ron. That is what is so despicable about this, Sean. They just lie, they distort, and they engage in the politics of personal destruction. I mean, talking about projection, Ron, a little bit more. They can't run on their record, obviously. Well, as you pointed out, Ron, there is no nominee selected yet. So, you know, the Democrats will be glad to run on their record as opposed to your record in the Senate, Ron. Oh, I think they're clamoring to run against your record. Here's what Rojo told Hannity last night. They can't run on their record, obviously. They can't run on their open borders and 40-year high inflation and record gas prices and the embarrassing and dangerous surrender in Afghanistan. All they can do is tear other people down like me. You know, he's talking about himself, right? Victim, big victim, Rojo. That is what they do. They do it quite effectively, which is why I need your help. And a third plea for cash. Ron Johnson for Senate.com. And one more reminder here, a new report this week detailed how a coalition of Wisconsin residents that has been running TV attack ads against U.S. Senator Ron Johnson is in front for a massive dark money group based in D.C. It says Opportunity Wisconsin doesn't actually exist on paper. The name is a business alias for the North Fund, which is more than 600 miles away in Washington, D.C. So Ron wants to point out, this is a real dark money group, D.C. based. They don't actually live in Wisconsin. Well, Ron, maybe they don't have a private jet like you do, flying back and forth to D.C. Don't you spend more than half your time in D.C., Ron? Dreaded D.C., that swamp. Come back. Ron Johnson's approval ratings brought to you by fine Pollster extraordinaire Charles Franklin. He joins me next. Stick around. I know you will.
Make sure you listen to Devil Radio 92.7. If you do, you go to heaven.
I'm sick and tired of the pro-choice versus pro-life argument. It's past time we get honest with each other. Pro-choice or forced birth. That's what we will have if we take away the ability of women to make choices for their own bodies.
Mr. Franklin.
Send me to the U.S. Senate.
How you doing? Oh, I'm good. Nice to see you again. You sound great. Good picture. We're in great shape.
All right. Well, then, on we go.
What else could go wrong? That's right. That's right. About 3.5 minutes. Thank you.
All good. 92.7 and WTTN 1580 AM, Madison's home for progressive news talk radio, bringing you a lineup of live talk radio every single weekday. Tune in for Dueling Tangents with Luke and Brian every afternoon from 2 to 3 p.m. for Wisconsin news and a tangent or two. The Devil's Advocates radio show is live every weekday from 3 to 6 p.m. Still the greatest radio show ever. Always streaming at Devil Radio 92.7.
Swamp. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. Russia releases a Marine veteran as part of a prisoner exchange with the United States. Trevor Reed has been in prison for nearly 3 years in Russia. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki says the exchange was just about freeing Reed.
Was about one issue and topic, and I don't think we should read into it further.
Reed's father, Joey, tells the AP, based on the video he's seen, he is worried about his health.
Hopefully we got him out. The president got him out of there in time. Before he has any, lasting, lifelong health issues.
Reed was swapped for a Russian pilot convicted of trying to smuggle cocaine into the U.S. The water district that supplies water to about 19 million people in Southern California declares a water shortage emergency, requiring local governments serving some 6 million people in Los Angeles, Ventura, and San Bernardino counties to enforce a once-a-week outdoor watering restriction because of the severe drought. I'm Tim McGuire.
Straight Talk Wireless now has the new iPhone 13 with cinematic mode, which lets you focus on what matters. And with Straight Talk, you can focus on getting the best deal. Our Silver Unlimited plan is just $45 a month for unlimited talk, text, and data. And it runs on the largest, most dependable networks, now with nationwide 5G. With the iPhone 13 on Straight Talk, you can share whatever you want, wherever you want. Straight Talk Wireless. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com.
That's the sound of your KFC chicken sandwich order. That's what happens next. Your chicken is Kentucky Fried Order. And that's the sound of your chicken being put on a brioche bun. Brioche buns don't make a lot of noise. Then we add sauce and pickles and serve your sandwich to you piping hot. Order the KFC chicken sandwich. It's Kentucky Fried to order on the KFC app or at KFC.com. At participating locations, the prices may vary.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. According to data from the Wisconsin Department of Health Services, children in Wisconsin are falling behind in child vaccination rates for a host of different illnesses, including pertussis, measles, mumps, chickenpox, and many more. To encourage families to vaccinate their children, Wisconsin DHS is highlighting National Immunization Week this week and promoting a list of 18 Wisconsin clinics and health providers that have vaccinated more than 90% of children. On Tuesday, the Wisconsin Legislature's Budget Committee accepted a plan to receive an additional $280 million in federal highway aid. The funds came from the bipartisan infrastructure bill that was signed by President Joe Biden last fall and is 35% more than what the state expected to receive from the federal government. 3 more Dane County Starbucks locations are organizing unionization efforts as a part of the current wave of service employees working to improve their working conditions. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
%60 of the time, they're right every time. The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, a Whopper of a Wednesday edition. I promise you, I got a fine guest. He's joined live via Zoom. He is Charles Franken, pollster extraordinaire, Marquette University Law School polling. And Charles, I always appreciate when the new polls drop, you usually accommodate, make time for the Devil's Advocates. It is a rarity when I don't find you here, like in the happy hour.
You know,
welcome back.
You got to make time for the devil when the devil calls.
Well, Charles, you come bearing interesting polling news. We got a horse race going on in the U.S. senatorial. I guess it's the Dem race because they haven't yet picked a nominee to go up against Ron Johnson. But amongst the Dem, lots of candidates. And suddenly we've got a horse race, at least amongst the top 2. Where did they stand, Charles?
Yeah, it's tightened since where it was in February when we last polled. Mandela Barnes is still in first place at 19%, but Alex Lasry is at 16%. Sarah Godlewski at 7%, Tom Nelson at 5%. We also asked about all 11 candidates, but none of the others reached more than 1 percentage point of support. For Barnes, that's a little bit of a drop from 23 in February to 19 now, while Lasry has climbed from 13 to 16. And Godlewski has gone up from 3 to 7, though Nelson did not move. Now, I got to say the margin of error here is plus or minus 6.6 percentage points. So these are numbers with a margin of error around them. Don't forget that. But I do think we see a tightening of the race. Interestingly, though, 48% are still undecided in this race. So there are an awful lot of votes sitting out there to still be picked up by somebody. This is far from over.
Charles,
go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. Did you poll the U.S. senatorial candidates in the same way as you had prior? Last time I thought you would ask some questions, basically, had you heard of this man or woman?
Right.
Different ways of asking the questions. Did they change between the polls, Charles?
Right. No, we asked exactly the same questions about the top 4 candidates from the February poll, but we did not ask the favorability and name recognition for the other 7 candidates, since none of them got past 1 percentage point in vote support. I think we can probably safely assume that they're Name recognitions have not changed very much either over that time. If we had seen anyone start to break out and start getting 3 or 4% or 5% of the vote, then we certainly would go back and ask about favorability about them next time.
Charles, let's talk about the other big, I guess it's nominee race, the Republican race for the gubernatorial nomination. And it had been a pretty well-formed race. We knew Rebecca Clayfish, effectively the front runner. And then we had Kevin Nicholson, this businessman. Well, he was trailing. And then we had, Grantham back in the ether somewhere. But a new entree into the race. And you bemoaned, if anything, as we booked this fine appearance by you, Charles, you said, well, I wish they'd have given us some heads up. We would have polled Michaels. So Michaels didn't appear in the poll.
No, because he didn't announce that he was getting into the race until the poll was more than half finished. So at that point, it's way too late to go back and add someone halfway through the survey, more than halfway through. Here, there's been very little change, though, among the three that we've asked both times. Clayfish is at 32, Nicholson at 10, Ramthun at 4. Those first two went up by 2 points apiece from last time. Ramthun went down by a point, and 46% say they don't know who they'll support. So with Michaels entering the race and 46% of the vote still on the table, there's certainly the potential for that to shake up the race. The other thing is that he's apparently buying a very substantial amount of advertising here this week to kick off his campaign.
I've already started seeing his ads on television locally here in the Madison market. Michaels is up on the air.
The report I saw was something over $800,000 in the first week. So that's a big buy. And on the Democratic side, remember Lasry and to a lesser extent Godlewski have been advertising recently, and they both seem to have benefited from that by moving up in the polls. So we'll see. Also, Rebecca Clayfish could start advertising with Michael's entry, and Nicholson too. So the bottom line is, I wish he had made up his mind a week earlier. It would have made my life easier, which is all that really matters. But we'll have him in the poll next time, and we'll see how much he really has shaken up the race, or whether Clayfish's support actually is pretty solid and his entry may not upend things. We'll just have to wait and see.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. I got pollster extraordinaire from Marquette University Law School polling, Charles Franklin. Charles, I haven't seen Tony Evers' ads up, maybe a few, but he was also polled not head to head with any of the Republicans, but against his own disapproval ratings. So what do the voters of Wisconsin, or those polled by the Marquette Law School, what's their interpretation of Governor Evers?
Evers is still in a net positive position, not enormously so, but steadily so. So in this sample, 49% approve of the job he's doing, 43 disapprove, a net +6. In February, it was 50-41, so a net +9. So it's a little bit narrower now, but still net positive. But on his handling of coronavirus, an issue that might come up in the fall, 60% approve now, 38 disapprove. And that's a big boost from last asked in October when it was 53-40. So I think Republicans see shutdowns and school closures and things as something Evers is vulnerable on. But on just how he handled coronavirus, he's pretty positive and has been throughout the pandemic. And on education, an issue that we're seeing a lot of talk about and considerable concern on, 51% approve of how Evers has handled education, 38 disapprove, so a net positive there. And finally, on the question of, is Tony Evers someone who cares about people like you? 54% say he does care, 40% say that's not who he is. So across all of these net positive numbers, not overwhelmingly so, but pretty solidly so, and in every dimension we asked about.
Charles Franklin, now I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you recall back in the summer of 2018 how the incumbent governor Scott Walker was doing in the plus minus approval disapproval? Let's say June-ish.
Yeah, I don't remember the numbers exactly, but I will tell you that with Governor Walker, what we saw was a consistent 2 or 3 point net approval rating. And when he was going on to victory, that would move up a little bit. And when he went on to defeat, that number went down a bit. His absolute low numbers, though, were actually in 2015, when he was very net negative. He recovered a good bit from that by 2018, but of course, not entirely, and he didn't go on to win.
Charles Franklin, my fine guest, pollster extraordinaire. Let's talk about the guy who is on the ballot, U.S. Senator Ron Johnson. How's Ron doing in the plus minus, the approval disapproval?
Yeah, well, let me say cares about you, because it contrasts interestingly with Evers. 39% say Johnson cares about people like them. 50% say he does not. Those are almost the inverse of Evers' numbers. But also for Johnson in 2016, shortly before his reelection, those numbers were 43% cares, 39% does not care. So that reflects a pretty substantial net minus 11 underwater on this question. On the favorability of how's he doing, 36% favorable, 46 unfavorable to him. And that is a couple of points better than where he was in February, where he was a net minus 12 in February, net minus 10 now. And that also, like with Walker's recovery, Johnson was deeply underwater on favorability in 2015, but in the spring of 16 started to move up. Now here we're just seeing a 2-point move in net favorability. That's not much, but it's not nothing. But we'll have to wait and see whether he can improve on these numbers as the campaign moves on, as his advertising kicks in, and whether he can pull that trick that he did in 2016 of managing to recover from being well underwater.
Charles Franklin, my fine guest, how about voter issues? What matters to the voters according to the polling you've just dropped, and we're sharing, going inside the numbers with our fair audience? But what do you think are the most important issues, according to current polling, amongst voters in Wisconsin?
We asked people how concerned they were about 5 different issues. Inflation overwhelmingly is the top issue, 69% very concerned about that. That's risen from like 38% last summer, and is up again from the previous poll by a little bit. Public education, though, is at 50% very concerned, the second highest. Illegal immigration, a good bit lower at 38%. Crime in your community, sort of surprisingly low at 27%. And the lowest of all, and the lowest yet recorded for this, is the coronavirus pandemic. Only 22% saying they're very concerned about that. That one has followed cases. As they go up, people get more concerned, and now that they're down, less concerned. We've heard so much talk about crime as an issue, and maybe it will be, but when it comes to the issue of crime where you live, that clearly is not the top priority, but public education could be at 50%.
Charles, you had mentioned to me before we went on the air that crime in the community you live in is more of an issue where they listen to us in Milwaukee. Tell us how that expresses through the polling, sir.
Very much so. And I think this is an important policy issue for us all. Forget the politics of it for a minute, but how do we make the lives of people better? And this is an issue. Here we asked it a slightly different way. Do you feel safe from crime going about your daily activities, or do you worry about crime in your daily life? In the city of Milwaukee, 63% say they feel safe, but 37% say they are worried. That's almost double the next highest, which are in the Milwaukee suburbs, where 19% are worried. In the Madison area, this is the Madison media market, not just the city of Madison.
Sure.
17%. In Green Bay, 10% are worried, 90% feel safe. And in the north and west of the state, 14% worried, 86% feel safe. So I think you really do have to appreciate that Milwaukee is different in this.
Charles, I'd like to keep you over if I could, and like to talk to you some about what I would describe as the big lie. But before we get there, I wanted to ask you, voter sentiment amongst the parties, amongst the partisans, do we see stronger sentiment? And were you trying to determine if one party or Dems or Republicans are someone more engaged, to your opinion, Charles, based on the polling?
Our data show that they're equally engaged. 57% very enthusiastic to vote in the fall in both parties. Some national polling has found Democrats less engaged this year, but that's not what we're finding here. We had Republicans up maybe 2 or 3 points in the previous couple of polls, which is not a lot, but it's dead even now. And if you average the three, there's virtually no difference between them. There was little difference in 2020 either, but enthusiasm was about 10 points higher for both parties then, in keeping with low turnout in a midterm.
Well, one of the issues I think that has been engaging to the right, I certainly know it's been engaging as a metric of media. I've seen right-wing talk radio get Goliath monstrous sort of ratings since the big lie has really been propagated. My words, not Charles Franklin's. My fine guest, he is a pollster extraordinaire from the Marquette University Law School polling outfit, and they drop new polls, and we always ask Charles to come around, and he generously has agreed to stick around for our conversation about what Crudy calls the big lie. Come back, more Devil's Advocates, a Whopper, but Wednesday edition. My fine guest, Charles Franklin, sticking around.
Taking them on their first real roller coaster.
Okay, buddy, come on over.
I don't know.
Let's measure.
Okay.
You're just tall enough.
Yes!
Getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed. Get the latest info about COVID-19 vaccines at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Spruce up your home with soy candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents. Did you know our candle jars are also double old-fashioned glasses? That's right, buy a candle and you get a free cocktail glass. Check out our blog at wiscohomegoods.com/blog for more information. That's wiscohomegoods.com/blog.
Save the $2 on tomorrow's paper. Listen to the Devil's Advocates today.
My senator and yours, Ron Johnson. See a big story about him at the Hill this week in Hill.com. Wisconsin Democrats and Republicans both want Ron to run, but for different reasons. I think some Democrats think, oh, he's just so crazy. Of course we'll beat him, which is what they said about Trump too. Miss that guy? Not much. Not much. He used to come around.
Check out the entire podcast library at darnwi.com.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstead of the Minocqua Brewing Company, and I'm excited to announce our new beer, AOC IPA. This IPA pays homage to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a champion of the progressive movement. AOC IPA is now available in stores throughout Wisconsin. Check our website, MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, to see which stores in your area are carrying it.
The Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Hump Day edition. Got a fine guest. He is Charles Franklin, pollster extraordinaire, Marquette University Law School polling. They got a new one out today. And Charles, I use the vernacular. I call it the big lie. But we've got gubernatorial candidate Rebecca Clayfish saying, I believe today, well, I suspect the last election was rigged. And I suspect many Republicans feel the way that she at least expressed her opinion today. Charles, what is the confidence level On the last election, the 2020 presidential, when you polled the people, especially the Republicans, I guess I'm most curious about them.
Well, I think Rebecca Clayfish is reflecting the opinions within her party, but not in the electorate as a whole. 64% say they're either very or somewhat confident in the accuracy of the 2020 election. Just 35% are not too or not at all confident about the election. And that's a 2-to-1 balance that we've seen since we've been asking about this in 2021. But among Republicans, it's a very different story. There, 62% are not confident in the election outcome. Just 36% are. So really, you have a Republican Party that's nearly the mirror image of public opinion at large on this issue of the 2020 election. Democrats, perhaps because they won, are 94% confident in the outcome of 2020, but so are 59% of independents. So again, you see that the majority Republicans who are doubtful of the election are not out of step only with Democrats, but are out of step with independents as well.
Charles Franklin, I thought your polling outfit did a very clever ask. And the ask was, well, how confident were you in the spring 2022 elections? And of course, you've got the data. The people just expressed whether or not they had confidence issues with the 2020, the Trump election, or lack thereof, depending on your math. Charles, how did they answer? How are Wisconsinites feeling about the spring election?
And we asked this the same question wording about both of these, just referring to two different elections. The spring election was very much a different story. If let's go on the doubtful side for a second, 35% were doubtful about 2022. But on the April election, only 14% had doubts about it. And 84% were confident in the spring election. What's different here? Well, we've had months and months and months of Donald Trump and many Republican leaders claiming that 2020 was fraudulent in some way or not accurate in some way. And Trump's followers accept that message and echo it. But we've not heard people of either party claiming that the April election this year was fraudulent, even though the procedures for it were largely the same. And we see a very different picture. 84% confidence, 14% doubts. Even among Republicans, where you might think that doubt would still linger, it's only 21% doubtful about the April election versus that 62% that were doubtful about 2020. So again, even within the Republican Party, where you might think electoral skepticism carries over, it's not nearly as prevalent. In fact, 76% of Republicans say they're confident about the April election. So I think there's a positive takeaway from this. Those who have worried that confidence in elections is broken and what does this mean for us as a society? Well, that confidence isn't broken. It's broken when your leaders tell you it's broken, but it's not broken in general, and it's not broken in the absence of a persistent rhetorical campaign to convince you that something's wrong.
Shocker that when Donald Trump's not on the ballot, people have more confidence. So that brings me to a natural question. I think, Charles, you polled about the Gableman investigation, the office of whatever, special counsel, whatever he's calling himself. This investigation has lingered on and on. And are the people that you've polled in the state of Wisconsin, are they confident about the work product, about the outcome, about this guy, Gableman? What's your interpretation using the analytics and the empirical evidence, Charles?
Disapproval is 2-to-1 over bigger than approval. Approve is just 13%, disapprove 27%, but maybe the shocker, 57% say they haven't heard enough about the Gableman investigation to have an opinion. This has not been lacking for news coverage, has not been lacking for drama around the Capitol, including Donald Trump this week calling for that investigation to be extended. So it's a pretty prominent thing. And yet 57% haven't heard enough to have an opinion. What's more stunning to me is, as we were just talking about this, Republicans are very dubious about the 2020 election, and whether that's because their leaders say so or because they think that independently. The fact is, there's a lot of skepticism in the GOP about 2020. And yet Republicans are the least likely to be aware of the Gableman investigation. 64% of Republicans, 2/3, say they haven't heard enough about it to have an opinion, even as 2/3 of Republicans are skeptical about the election outcome. So you would think the folks that were really concerned about that past election would also be paying a lot of attention to the investigation of it, but that's not the case. Now, Democrats aren't super aware either. 50% of them don't know enough about it, but still, that's half as opposed to 2/3 on the GOP side.
Charles, maybe a little much to ask, but did you cross-tab like the Rantham support with the Gableman investigation support? Is there any crossover, cross-pollination, if you would, Charles?
Well, there's certainly a little bit, but Rantham's numbers are so low in both in vote support and in the people that are aware of him, because he's still pretty invisible to most folks. There's not much of a relationship just because there's so few people that are aware of him.
I gotcha. Charles Franklin, any other takeaways our audience should be aware of?
I think that what we're seeing on the turnout side is pretty important. I want to make sure that we said this, and I don't think we did, but within the Republican Party, those who are most skeptical about the election are much more enthusiastic about voting this fall. 69% very enthusiastic about among the least confident. Only 46% very enthusiastic among Republicans who are confident in the election outcome. So what does that mean? It means the primary may be more dominated by Trump supporting election skeptics, but it means for the fall that what happens to those Republicans who are not very enthusiastic, who may not be that excited about supporting an election skeptic in the fall. So I think there are some general election issues as well as some primary election issues. Anybody that's attended a Republican event lately doesn't need to be told by me that people are pretty upset and vociferous in the party base. So I think this fits very well with that. But we've talked a lot about what happens to the suburbs. What happens in November if they're not enthusiastic?
Charles Franklin, thank you so much. As always, more Devil's Advocates. Dom joins.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, all good.
Oh, man, I love these every time. I love it.
Great. Well, it's my goal in life to keep you entertained on this. So thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Take care, my friend.
Take care. See you in a month.
Bye-bye.
Sanders by this point.
Yeah, we got to head over to the Atomic Koi. Hawk shares our values, and even while we're unplugging over a cold one, we can rest easy knowing we're supporting a like-minded, locally owned business.
All right, I'm heading over to the Atomic Koi after the show.
Okay, Senator Sanders.
We're going to get drunk in the name of the progressive movement. My new initiative, Blasted for Progress.
Suck down drinks so we don't have to suck.
Okay.
Listen to the Empowered Caregiver Show each Saturday and Sunday morning at 9 a.m. with hosts Liza Hellenbrand and Kristen Voss.
Right here on Devil Radio 92.7, WTTN 1580 AM, and the Devil Radio app.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Devil Radio app.
I'm Tim McGuire. Russia releases a U.S. Marine vet as part of a prisoner exchange. Trevor Reed in jail for nearly 3 years in Russia. The exchange wasn't expected given Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Reed's father, Joey, was asked by the AP what happened.
We think it was just an unclear policy decision by this administration. Obviously, no administration wants to make deals or trades for people, but most of them do.
His mother, Paula, says he didn't look good in the video they saw, but they did have the chance to talk with him.
We asked him how he was doing, and he said,
I'm fine, but he always says that even when he isn't. And he just didn't sound like his normal self. We kind of expected a little more excitement in his voice.
Yeah.
And he just sounded very subdued and not excited.
The U.S. returned a Russian pilot who'd been serving a 20-year federal prison sentence for conspiracy to smuggle cocaine into the U.S. While touting the exchange, the Biden administration made clear it's not a broader breakthrough between the countries. Russian forces remain determined in their assault on Ukraine. The U.S. and Western allies continue to impose sanctions, and other Americans, including WNBA star Brittany Griner and corporate security executive Paul Whelan, remain jailed in Russia. A report finds Minneapolis Police Department has engaged in a pattern of race discrimination for at least 10 years, including stopping and arresting Black people at a higher rate than white people. Report was ordered following George Floyd's death. Minnesota Human Rights Commissioner Rebecca Lucero.
The investigation finds that without fundamental organizational culture change, reforming MPD's policies, procedures, and trainings will be meaningless.
Lucero's department says it will negotiate with the city to reach an agreement to address the list of problems identified in the report, with input from residents, police officers, city staff, and others. The report does not include a timeline to reach an agreement. This is AP News.
Straight Talk Wireless now has the new iPhone 13 with cinematic mode, which lets you focus on what matters. And with Straight Talk, you can focus on getting the best deal. Our Silver Unlimited plan is just $45 a month for unlimited talk, text, and data. And it runs on the largest, most dependable networks, now with nationwide 5G. With the iPhone 13 on Straight Talk, you can share whatever you want, wherever you want. Straight Talk Wireless. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com.
That's the sound of your KFC chicken sandwich order. That's what happens next. Your chicken is Kentucky Fried Order. And that's the sound of your chicken being put on a brioche bun. Brioche buns don't make a lot of noise. Then we add sauce and pickles and serve your sandwich to you piping hot. Order the KFC chicken sandwich. It's Kentucky Fried to order on the KFC app or at KFC.com. At participating locations, prices may vary.
Stay informed with progressive news and talk on 92.7, Wisconsin's home for Devil Radio.
This is Pat Slattery of Slattery's Automotive Service in Verona. Established in 1973, I've been servicing and repairing cars in the Madison community for nearly 50 years. You can trust me to tell you what your car really needs and fix it right the first time. Give me a call at 608-848-6123 to schedule an appointment today. Slattery's Automotive Service, your trusted choice for local service and repairs for all your automotive needs.
At Knuckleheads, we strive to serve a variety of quality products. Whether you need CBD for sleep, Delta 8 for relaxation, HHC for a calm mind and body, or all the accessories needed to enjoy our wellness section, Knuckleheads is the one-stop shop that has it all. Visit us in Madison at 520 State Street or shop online at knuckleheads.shop. Our weekend savings are now available online. Order at knuckleheads.shop on Saturday and Sunday and receive 15% off your order of wellness products. That's knuckleheads.shop. Order now.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey, it's Rocker, and I'm lifting off from Sal's Tomato Pies, enjoying a brand new cocktail called the Cosmonaut. It's an improved take on the classic cocktail with Madison-made Rocker vodka, featuring orange liqueur, house-made citrus cordial, lime, and cranberry. Experience liftoff with the Cosmonaut, the new cocktail featuring Rocker vodka at Sal's Tomato Pies in Sun Prairie, Madison, and the Dark Horse Art Bar. Must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
Taking on Ready Whitey Talk Radio on both sides of the dial from McFarland to Wanakee, Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. This week, an industrial farm in Kewaunee County filed a lawsuit against the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources for requirements the state agency put into the renewed permit sought by the factory farm. Kinnard Farms, a concentrated animal feeding operation, or CAFO, contends the permit requiring the farm to purchase a groundwater monitoring system and limit the herd to the current 8,000 cows is detrimental to its business. Residents in Kewaunee County contend the concentration of one of the largest herds in the state is polluting groundwater and affecting private wells throughout the county. The Milwaukee Brewers shortstop Willie Adames went off last night responsible for 7 RBIs in the Crew's 12-8 victory over the Pittsburgh Pirates. Possibility for scattered snow flurries this morning with winds up to 10 miles an hour and a high of 46 degrees. Cloudy skies expected this evening with a 40% chance for rain throughout the night and an expected low of 32 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, a whopper of a Wednesday edition. I'm still assuring you it's a great show. Rolling into the happy hour. Well, Dom might let you down, but
never, always showing up. Come on, Crudy. Good to see you, Evan, on the board, our fair audience. Happy hour. It's a hump day happy hour. Makes me even just a little bit happier.
Well, I've been joking. I had Al Franken, and he was a fine guest in the first hour. I had Charles Franklin. Want to thank our fine hour 2 guest, Charles Franklin, pollster extraordinaire. And, joining us a little bit later in the hour, live via Ouija board, Ben Franklin in hour 3. Yeah. So stick around for Ben Franklin. We'll talk about electricity and, French horse and fun stuff.
Right. Coke fueled orgies, perhaps.
Al Franken told a story. Someone asked him as he was gearing up to run for Senate, apparently, and he told this story. I hope to do it justice. And someone said, Al, did you ever use cocaine? And Al's response was, yes, but only a little, because I had to stay up long enough to make sure that Belushi didn't do all the cocaine. And apparently, this effort at humor was interpreted as a literal statement, and the reporter dutifully wrote it up as, Al Franken says, yes, I did cocaine to keep Jim Belushi from doing all the cocaine.
Doing all of it, right.
And I think to myself, as he's saying that, and I'm giggling along, and I'm thinking, that's quality humorous stuff. But only for, our fine audience and the sophisticated amongst us. But I'm worried about, like the CJs of the world and perhaps even Big Light Becky Clayfish.
Oh, come on.
Because some people strike me that, they just don't get the joke. Like they're not a part of the joke. They want to be a part of the joke, but they just don't get the humor.
Well, it's a lot of the humor is based on fact, right? So it's funny because it's true.
Well, usually there's a little kernel of truth, but I don't know if you saw the headlines. Dominic, Rebecca Clayfish. I'm going to start calling her Big Light Becky. Big hair, big lie. She is apparently afraid. I think this is purely a fearful move on her and her campaign's part. But Tim Michaels, this, very rich businessman, jumps in the race. A self-funder already bought like $1 million worth of ads. And I think Clayfish is scared, and she's running scared, and she's running to the big lie. And I'm thinking to myself, do you get the fact? I mean, look at the new polling out today.
Yeah.
People aren't supportive of what Gableman's doing. I mean, what'd she say today? Well, she said many things. Tom, do you know any of the things that she might have said?
Apparently, according to the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, Becky is very, very super concerned about all sorts of very many important things. And some of these things she identifies.
Things often bother me.
In her quote here, and I'd like to tell you more about these things. So
will you tell me about both thing one and thing two?
There might be even be three things. Here's a quote from Big Lie Becky. I also had a really long talk with Gableman over the weekend, and he is still uncovering things. And I think those subpoenas will be helpful in identifying new things, or perhaps even solidifying other things that we've already covered in greater volume.
Do you think
whatever the hell that means?
Do you think Gableman showed Big Lie Becky his things?
His things. Well, he's uncovering things and maybe identifying new things and solidifying other things. There's lots of things. And of course, this is a purposeful move. I don't believe the Big Lie Becky believes the big lie. She's making this as a strategic move. But the Franklin, I looked at some of the Franklin polling on elections. On the April elections, 84% were cool with the elections compared to 2020 when it was 64%.
That's hell of a contrast, is it not?
It certainly is. And unfortunately, we don't know. I'd like to know, well, what is it about this last election that all of a sudden makes those people, that 20% swing from 64% up to 84%? Where do those people, why are they so much more confident this time? What changed, right? All the things the Republicans claim they wanted to do to further suppress the vote, make it harder for people to vote, to engage, were vetoed by Evers. So short of the one Dropbox issue, which was not around for the April election, but was earlier, short of that, that's the only thing that's had any sort of change. And that's cured up to 20% of the population now fine with the elections. And then now you're going to go and say, well, we got to look back. And say if other people don't look back, they should be disqualified?
Well, disqualified by the voters, of course, because, that rich guy that just got in the race, he scares Big Lie Becky quite a bit, Dom. But here was the takeaway. I asked Charles. I, went through a lot of the polling, went inside the numbers, approval, disapproval, all the stuff.
Yeah.
I said, Charles, what's the takeaway? Give me a takeaway. Something I didn't pay attention to. Because, occasionally I lose track. I get the ADHD kicking in. And he said, here's the most interesting
I thought it was the
part.
weed. Yes, go ahead.
Well, a little of this, a little of that, whatever gets me distracted. Like you at this moment. Well, let me get into the numbers.
You can't let Belushi do all the cocaine.
Again, that's a joke, folks. These are the funnies. Here is what Charles Franklin said. Those that were most concerned about the outcome of the last election,
the presidential, the
2020, not the spring election, because barely anyone cared about the spring. No one was concerned about the outcome in the spring. And Charles Franklin even said before he exited stage left, stage right, though, he always oversamples Republicans. But before he left, he said this striking stuff. Those that were least confident in the last election are most likely to say they're going to vote in the next election amongst Republicans. I believe Charles Franklin said 69% of those that said the last election was rigged, I have very little confidence, say they're going to vote in the midterms. And those amongst Republicans, I believe he was enumerating, those who were confident in the outcome of the last election only had a 41% likelihood, self-stated to the pollster, that they were going to vote in the midterms. So no wonder why Becky Clayfish and Ron Johnson are running to the fringier right, because that's the base of the party. And without the quote unquote fringe, you can't win an election, not in the state of Wisconsin, not nationwide. They need that fringe, Dom. That's their base. That's their people. Those are the ones that are going to go vote in the midterms, despite the fact they had no confidence in the last election. And here's what Charles said. He said, the difference, what's the difference? The difference is you didn't have Donald Trump saying over and over again, reinforced by the Republican leadership, that the last election was stolen. No one said that about the spring election. Trump didn't say stolen municipal dog catcher election in Waukesha. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but even it's such BS, because even those folks, those Republicans who claim that the election was stolen, well, they won on their races. So what? Everybody else's election was stolen, but mine. I mean, it is so disingenuous. And of course, that does have an impact on the Republican vote. Trump is the leader of the GOP. And can we stop calling them fringe now then? I mean, if
there is no
fringe
fringe,
is the majority of the party, then they're just the fringe party. I mean, let's just stop saying it. They're the fringers. And to have Donald Trump, of course, lay down that seed corn for a year before he lost to justify his attempted coup. You have Becky Clayfish today wrapping up her quote to the Journal-Sentinel regarding Gableman. If for no other reason than to assure that people feel that their vote is going to count and we are no longer jeopardizing our democratic republic by disenfranchising voters, I think Gableman's investigation, quote unquote, must continue. Are you kidding me? I mean, it is exactly that investigation and those words that give people pause. And she did articulate specifically drop boxes, absentee ballots delivered to nursing homes, and the Zuckerbucks. Those are the same thing that Republicans have been whining about the whole time. The same thing that had been litigated and discussed. It's over. Go home. That has nothing to do with these upcoming elections, and we wouldn't need billionaires' dollars for elections if the government would properly fund them. You have a proposal for that, Becky?
But you understand what this polling suggests, and I'd seen a prior article, and I actually made this sort of statement on the air. They don't believe the big lie either. Be it Ron Johnson, be it Rebecca Clayfish, certainly be it Robin Voss. They don't believe the big lie. They don't believe it. And neither does their base. And why am I convinced of that fact, Dom? Because they're 69% likely to vote in the next election if they claim they had zero confidence in the last election. Well, if all the elections are rigged, why would you go vote in the next one? Why would, take your ball and go home, right? Why are you so itching to go vote in the next one, right?
Yeah.
So all they're really doing is they're saying, I don't want to admit my team lost. If I just throw a tantrum in the mall, well, I get my ice cream, or at least that's their hope. They still haven't gotten their ice cream, but they're throwing the tantrum. But they're the most likely to go vote in the midterms. And I think Becky Clayfish, I think she's scared. I think this Tim Michaels, I don't know Michaels yet, but I think she's scared of this guy because she's making a hard right immediately after his entry into the race. A hard right. And Charles Franklin pointed out, people's overall confidence in Gableman, quite low. And the overall confidence, that might get you the nomination. That might help you win the primary. But in the general election, that's not the sentiment of Wisconsin voters. They're running away from the big lie. The independents don't believe it. Democrats certainly, especially those that listen to this fine program, they don't believe it. And the vast majority of Republicans, they don't believe it either. They're just sour grapes, man. They're just snowflakes. They're just sad because they lost.
Well, and it's okay to be sad that you lost. You can jump on your soapbox and cry about it. But to go and attack the Capitol, to engage in an insurrection, and whether or not Becky was on site or not is not relevant. She's encouraging that kind of behavior with these talk. I mean, if you tell everybody you must fight for your country or it will be lost forever, some people are going to get concerned about that if they believe you. And Becky is essentially saying that.
Well, she just called the election rigged and took pictures with Derek Van Orden. He was a Capitol insurrectionist. She's just insurrectionist adjacent. Make it the greatest radio show ever. The Devil's Advocates is my passion. It must be. I've been doing it for a decade, running two Wisconsin radio stations, providing the only platforms of truth and resistance against fascism in a critical swing state. That's a vital mission and a tremendous responsibility, and it all costs money. So support the mission and the show. Join and give at patreon.com at the Devil's Advocates Radio. Help me change hearts and minds and just maybe save democracy.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. And he would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at P4PPC.org.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates.
The Republican Party on a national level, how many years did they investigate Hillary and Bill? They're still going to that.
They're still looking for emails, right? But they don't look in the Trump septic tank for half the top secret classified documents that he was flushing during his term. When one party doesn't care about governing, just don't allow anything to happen when the Democrats are in charge. And then they think the American people are going to get boonswoggled and vote Republican again.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Treat yourself to some Wisco Home Goods natural lotions or sugar scrub in 2022. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our natural hand soaps, lotions, and sugar scrubs offer you the luxury you deserve. Wisco Home Goods self-care products come in a variety of scents you're sure to love. So go on, add a little pampering to your daily routine. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing self-care and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
The Devil's Advocates, tackling the issues you're not allowed to talk about at the dinner table.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Happy hour to us all. You can join us on the party line at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I have a brief story about yours truly I'd like to share on the radio. Just
tell me more about
first time we really talked today. Woke up this morning and thought I had gotten hit by a Mack truck. Like, I'm sore as hell. I didn't even know why. Like, my legs. Yeah. I'm like, what's up?
Wow, must have a hell of a workout yesterday, huh?
Well, I thought about it, and I've been getting modest exercise. And when I say modest, I've been doing like 50 push-ups a day in like 2 increments, 25 and 25. It's a big deal for me.
All right.
Takes a lot of effort. I sweat. I breathe hard. And I've been doing a little, walking of the dogs, try to take them up some distance. So, that's strenuous as I get for the most part. But anyways, my son's been participating in Special Olympics track. And I coached a lot of these very same athletes on the basketball team a couple of years ago. So when I go to practice, and yesterday I joined them, Coach Mike. So anyways, I joined and helped with the practice. And track and field, you can only run so many laps, and then you got to create some fun activities. So we're doing red light, green light, different stuff, having fun. And I was like watching these kids, they were coming at me like banshees, So like as I would green light them and they'd get like close, and then I'd run away, under red light, I'd be running away from these kids. And my son was running around. So then I decided I'm going to challenge him. He doesn't know I'm racing him, but I know. So, that gives me a little head start, sort of Jerry Seinfeld style. You get that right. 10-yard head start on the 100 and you might just win. I threw my heart and soul into beating that kid across the finish line. And sure, was he disadvantaged in that he didn't even know it was a race? And did I get like a 10-yard head start? Absolutely. And did I wake up with my hamstrings on fire? Oh my God, dude. I feel like a 92-year-old man, or at least I imagine how one must feel when one, gets a little older. Yeah, like Joe Biden age, 92-ish.
Oh, man. See, the more you do that, the less it hurts. That's the beautiful thing about it.
Buddy, when's the last time you sprinted? Like ran as fast as you could run? It's not like 5 feet trying to chase the mailman for the mail, but sprinted for like some approaching 100 yards. Or even
it's 50. Been some time. I mean, I run regularly, but I don't run full blast.
Well, this guy does. At least once a decade.
You're lucky you didn't tear a hammy, man.
I am quite lucky I didn't blow some. I was running in like loafers, dude. Jeans and loafers. I gave it my all.
Yes, well done, Michael.
We always do here. That's
how it is. We don't know any other way.
The best I have to offer you is Big Lie Becky and Crudy's got sore hamstrings because I ran too hard. Too fast. Some would say too fast. 844. No one's ever accused me of being fast. 844-96. Well, maybe my wife a couple times. 844-967-2789. Trying to keep it real.
It's a joke, folks. Or is it?
Dick from Madison. Welcome to the comedy show, man. What do you got for us?
Hey, Dick.
Oh, well, I used to be fast about 50 years ago, but now they measure my 40-yard dash with an hourglass. Seriously, The Republican Party, you know, they stand for absolutely nothing. And I'm wondering, I'm going to run something by you guys. It used to be family values / character matters. Now you've got Matt Gaetz, DeSantis in Florida, Abbott in Texas, Cruz, Rand Paul, Ron Johnson here in Wisconsin. I'll give you, they're all characters, but they have no character. Okay? Now, here's why I think the country is going and why it's going there. When Charles Franklin came with all this polling information, over the long Easter weekend, I was out to visit my oldest daughter and son-in-law and 2 grandkids. So out in Kansas City, we went to have lunch at this place down in the old Union Station area. And my son-in-law pokes me and goes, Dick, look at this. And we're looking at this big semicircular booth, a family sitting there of 6 people. And the guy looked, you know, that they were ranging in age from maybe 10 or 11 up to teenage. And then the parents, all 6 of them were on their cell phones, paying no attention whatsoever to each other. It's what I'm saying is, no one really is paying any attention to anything relevant anymore.
Dick, appreciate that contribution. I like to be the ones to, you know, have the long stem winders about dinner I had at a recent occasion. But I lost you somewhere there because I was scrolling through Facebook. No,
Hey,
I
if
did.
it's too loud, you're too old, Dick. Listen, I hear what you're saying, and I don't know that that's any political thing. I mean, I think people are easily distracted, regardless of your age and your political persuasion, by the gadgets and the bright lights and the flashy things. That being said, I think your earlier point to the character matters and family values and these things, well, it never mattered. See, I mean, that's the big secret, because if it did, they would not have discarded it so quickly and so easily when they had a Cheeto Messiah in chief. And Donald Trump is the kind of guy, you know, a pocket full of cash brings out the worst in everybody. And he is a cancerous infection. And he, as many Republicans indicated when he became the leader of that party, that he's going to destroy that party. And that's exactly what he is doing. There's no character here. I mean, Becky Clayfish is in Wisconsin, you're comparing this to Deflategate. They won the game, but did they win legitimately? Well, yes. Every court case, every recount. Yes, Becky, that is the answer. They did win legitimately.
New Morning Consult polling about Republicans. Are they anti-Semitic? Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
47% of Republicans think anti-Semitism is a major issue. Like if their candidate was anti-Semitic, 47% would have a problem. If their candidate was homophobic, 25% of Republicans would have a problem with that.
So
that's why
hating
Ron
the
DeSantis
gays
is
than
going
it is
to
to be a Jewish candidate in the Republican Party.
And racist, just a little racist. 38% of Republicans would have a problem with a racist candidate.
Oh,
the rest are just fine. That's 62% of them. They're anti-Semitic, homophobic, racist. You know, and that's their best qualities.
And that's not fringe, baby. That is what it is.
Come back with us. That's your Republican base.
Hear history as it happens, only on Devil Radio 92.7 FM.
Hey, Jimmy, it's Rocker. Meet me at the new Dark Horse Art Bar in East Wash. Happy hour is Tuesday through Saturday, 4 to 6 p.m. You pick the day. 2-for-1 rail drinks and slices of Sal's tomato pies for $1. Jimmy, it's happy hour at the Dark Horse Art Bar, 756 East Washington in Madison, across from the Sylvie.
Madison's newest happy hour, craft cocktail, local art, and music. Find out more at the new Dark Horse Art Bar and Gallery, online at darkhorsemadison.com.
The real estate market in Dane County and surrounding areas has been a bit of a hot mess this year. Listings are being picked off above asking prices and without the home inspection contingencies. I'm Todd Osborne, owner of Orion Inspections, and even if I weren't a home inspector, I'd still cringe a little if any of my friends or family tried to buy a home without an inspection. Let's take a good hard look at that house before you sign. Want to know more? I'm here to help. OrionInspections.com. That's Orion, like the constellation, inspections.com.
Albright. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. A memorial is held at Washington National Cathedral for former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright, who died last month at 84. President Biden spoke at the service.
Freedom endures against all odds in the face of every aggressor, because there are always those who will fight for that freedom. In the 20th and 21st century, freedom had no greater champion than Madeleine Corbell Albright.
Her daughter, Alice Albright, talked about what her mother was like.
She was the kind who usually called every day and sometimes twice. My time was 6:35 p.m. How are the boys? How is work? When is your next trip? Are you going running tonight? Don't forget it's dark out.
Albright says she's going to miss those calls. I'm Tim McGuire.
Straight Talk Wireless now has the new iPhone 13 with cinematic mode, which lets you focus on what matters. And with Straight Talk, you can focus on getting the best deal. Our Silver Unlimited plan is just $45 a month for unlimited talk, text, and data. And it runs on the largest, most dependable networks, now with nationwide 5G. With the iPhone 13 on Straight Talk, you can share whatever you want, wherever you want. Straight Talk Wireless. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com.
That's the sound of your KFC chicken sandwich order. That's what happens next. Your chicken is Kentucky Fried Order. And that's the sound of your chicken being put on a brioche bun. Brioche buns don't make a lot of noise. Then we add sauce and pickles and serve your sandwich to you piping hot. Order the KFC chicken sandwich. It's Kentucky Fried Order on the KFC app or at KFC.com. At participating locations, prices may vary.
What? Time for an update from Up North News. I am Pat Kreitlow with news and commentary. The pollsters are asking about the fall elections, and Wisconsin voters are saying, come on, man, too soon. The new Marquette poll says nearly 50% of Democrats don't have a favorite candidate to challenge Senator Ron Johnson, and the same goes for Republicans not ready to choose someone yet to challenge Governor Tony Evers. Of those who do have a pony in the race, Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes is in front, with Alex Lasry closing the gap among those Democratic Senate candidates. And former Lieutenant Governor Rebecca Kleefisch has a solid lead in the GOP gubernatorial primary. Also on our social media sites, the new video, 3 Things to Know about a Republican proposal to raise taxes and scrap every federal program, benefit, and law every 5 years and force a government shutdown type battle way more often. Search for us in your favorite feed, Up North News WI. Don't forget the WI, or upnorthnewswi.com.
The Devil's Advocates. So relevant, they have one foot in tomorrow.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Hump Day Happy Hour. Dom's right there. You could join us on the phones, 844-967-2789. Dom, before we take a few more callers, you see the polling on the Democratic senatorial, the race to be the nominee to take on Ron Johnson. Apparently, it's a horse race now between Mandela and Alex Lasry.
Yeah, it's tightening up. Mandela Barnes for favorable rating at 19, unfavorable at 16. Alex Lasry coming up quick. Favorable at 16, unfavorable at 11.
Well, they perceive that, or at least I perceive that, to mean Mandela's like 3 points ahead. And that is definitely a closing between the two front runners. Now, Charles Franklin mentioned that Godlewski, and she spent like $1 million in the last month, that she is, at least from the last poll to this poll, that she's on the move, and Tom Nelson's been pretty steady in fourth. So right now, amongst the Democratic candidates running to be the opponent for Ron Johnson, the winner is undecided.
And what is it, a 4% margin of error?
It's like a 6% margin of error. By the time you take like 800 sampled, differentiate them between Democrats and Republicans, and then understanding that like half the Democratic field is undecided, or at least the voters are, on who they're going to choose. Well, now that leaves 175 Democrats that actually expressed a preference across the state of Wisconsin. So that's still, relatively speaking, a small sample size. But at some point, you got to weigh the math, do the math. It's a snapshot in history.
Right.
And it's getting closer. It's getting
Leslie's dumping money into his campaign, and that apparently helps.
I keep asking you, when are we going to wade into this race with our devil bumps? You know,
wait in, like, give our opinion on who we think everybody else should vote for. I don't know, man.
Does the audience want to hear that? I'll be done asking you, because you never give me the sufficient answer. I'll ask the audience. Do you want to know who Dom and Crute might support, endorse, if you will, but let's call it support in the primary races? Do you want to hear our input, or should we just be out here, keeping it honest? 844-967-2789. Mark from the SAC, I suspect you'll vote in the Dem primary. Do you care who I'm going to vote for, or Dom might vote for? Will we be influential upon your vote? Potentially.
No, but because you guys are honest brokers, because you'll bring on all the candidates that are in the race. I mean,
well, top tier only, man. Top tier only. I'm not pulling 11 through.
Do you want to hear who we pick? If I said this candidate and Crudy said that candidate, would that influence you in any way, shape, or form, or are you just going to make your own decisions regardless of what Crudy or I might think?
I'm going to make my own decision, but you guys are honest because you give when you bring the candidates on, you actually ask them pertinent questions. You don't give them lob them softballs most of the time, like the right wing seems to do. And that, but I really like. Well, I shouldn't even say softballs. It's kitten balls.
Improve your lives, sir. What are rules?
That it is just. But there you go again with Donald Trump. I mean, he just I got a hole in one. Well, that's because he kicked the ball in from or had it in his pocket, dropped in the hole when he got walked up to the hole.
Right.
But I mean, it is just incredible that Rebecca Kleefisch does not have the intellectual honesty or the honesty itself to say yes, Joe Biden won the election fair and square. I mean, the cowardice that she is displaying there should disqualify her from being governor.
But Mark, she can kind of sort of have it both ways, because most people, unlike yourselves and ourselves, they're not paying attention. They're sitting at the dinner table at the restaurant in Kansas City, Dick's Neighbors, and they're all staring at their cell phones, their TikTok and their whatever, but they're not really paying attention. So I think what Rebecca is hopeful for is she can have it both ways. She can tack to the right, call it a rigged election during the primary, because if she doesn't, Mark, she can't win the primary. I mean, we've already established this is the Republican base.
But but the whole point of it is that her opinion on some of this stuff should not be changed, because then it goes to character again.
Right. Well, you have to sketch back for the general election. You win the primary. If you can't win the primary, you can't lead the state. Mark, she'll do what she has to do, and then she'll do the exact opposite.
But I'm not clear. I mean, I don't know that you can go back on this. You can't get unpregnant. You can't undo the claim that this is a rigged election. Once you say that, and she hasn't said it up until now, she kind of, at first, to my understanding, my impression, my reading of Rebecca Kleefisch over the last year or so, didn't really go there. And now she's going there. To your point, she's evolved to that position. And I don't think that once you dip your toe in that water that you can come out of it. You are now stained with the big lie stench, with the funk, with the Trump cancer. You got the Trump herp now, Becky.
Do you think she's wearing bronzer these days?
Give her time. Becky. But again, I think this is among the primary voters, according to Marquette University Law School polling, among Republican primary voters, again, without the new guy joining the race. What's his name from Michaels?
Tim Michaels.
Yeah. Kleefisch was 45-13. Nicholson was 21-4. I mean, she more than doubled the second place.
And she was holding steady, but she's not worried about Nicholson.
No, I understand.
She's certainly not worried about Ram Jam. I mean, he was the fringe. He was the, let's replay the Electoral College,
baby.
Right?
He's at 7.
But the thought was Ram Jam didn't motivate this. It was the businessman Michael she's running scared of. Because up until now, she had a comfortable first place lead. And up until now, my boy Mandela Barnes, who we both like, he's a friend of ours, has been for a decade. But Mandela, well, he was sort of unchallenged. But with the $4+ million that Alex Lazary has dumped into the race, Well, suddenly it's a horse race over on the Democratic side.
But I very much look forward to debates on the Dem side. But let's stay focused for a moment on the Republican side.
Well, I was trying to inspire some callers because I want to know from the callers, not you so much, 844-967-2789. But do they want to know who they should vote for? Because I'll tell them.
Yeah, we may or may not agree on that, Curdy. Michael, but here's why I question whether or not this strategy for Clayfish is worth it. Journal Sentinel reporting on the same article today we've been referencing. Michael said on an inferior radio product, a lot of people have questions about the last election. So do I. If we don't have fair, transparent elections, our whole system is going to come apart. Well, I mean, he's not saying it's rigged, but he's certainly, leaning in that direction. So you have all of the Republican candidates are essentially there. So why would she is trying to get ahead of Michaels on this? I don't know. I think it's short-sighted. I think there's a lot of people that are going to be turned off by it when it really comes down to it. I don't think she can go that far right to win the Republican primary and think that she's going to have any support on the independents when she tries to attack back.
Unless they're not paying attention, right? Unless they're looking at their cell phones for the summer. Oh, who are the candidates? Tony and Big Lie Becky?
Yeah, and then here come the ads, and here's what Rebecca said, and here's Big Lie Becky.
By the fall?
Here's Kooky Clayfish.
By the fall, if she wins the primary, Dom, she'll be talking about kitchen table issues. She'll be talking about that Joe Biden
She
inflation.
can talk about what she wants to talk about, but the opposition is certainly going to bring this up. We will be discussing it by fall. I will not forget. I have a pretty bad memory sometimes, but I will make a point to remember. And if I don't, Crudy will help me out.
But amongst the issues that voters give a damn about, according to the Marquette Law School polling, Charles Franklin, inflation's number one. I mean, Becky could have tacked to kitchen table issues right now. I'm a suburban housewife. I feel your pain. Joe Biden's made it tough on all of us. And I know that she's done a little bit of that. But when you're coming out and you're doing interviews saying, well, the last election feels rigged, and I got lots of things that I'm hoping Gableman's going to tell me, inflation might be a winner. I know. I see you, CJ. I know you're dying to crap on Joe Biden for inflation rates. Public education. I know that Clayfish has waded into a lot of local school board races, and critical race theory is one of the, planks of her against something platform. Crime, not a big deal. Do you feel safe where you are? Not a big deal. That's my impression. I know lots of people want to force feed me. Crime's a big issue. Only on Righty Whitey Talk Radio.
Well, here's the numbers. I mean, inflation, according to the polling, 69% very concerned. Public education, 50%. Illegal immigration, 38% very concerned. Crime in your community, 27%. Coronavirus, 22%. You know what is not in the top 5? Stolen Trump elections. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's not clear. A thing.
I'm not clear if that specifically was polled next to those other questions, but if you ask the people of the state of Wisconsin, do you support the Gableman? No, we don't. Are you confident in the last election?
Gableman has a 13% favorability rate, 27% negative.
He's like right there with Robin Voss, right?
Well, he's actually beaten Voss. Voss has like 12%.
But again, like 50% of Wisconsinites don't even know who Michael Gableman is.
They got to tune in, man. I mean, come on, people.
844-967-2789. I think CJ's got higher approval ratings than Gableman. Welcome, CJ. What do you got for us?
Hey, CJ.
Howdy, guys. You got to admit that you're going on Fox News number one.
Maybe I'm going back on Fox. I haven't decided, man. I'm supposed to party with Dom and our college roommates on Saturday night. I mean, I don't know if I could go on Fox News with my eyes like closed shut from swelling from drinking too much.
We'll get you to the studio by noon, Crudy. Don't worry about it.
I'll be watching. Ron Johnson's going to be reelected because he's been right on so many issues, including inflation.
But you see the polling on Ron? He's way underwater. Just currently, unlike Tony Evers, and I'm just throwing empirical evidence at you, CJ. I mean, I've seen Ron win election twice, and it's been a little shocking. So I can understand why you might have that misinformed sentiment. But when you look at the actual polling in the state of Wisconsin, Ron's highly unpopular. And you could say, well, both top of the ticket are highly unpopular. Not so with Evers. Evers has come up and Ron's way under.
Money, Rudy.
What's that?
More Democrat money is being dumped into this outside of the state. Is being
Ron Johnson raised $7 million in the last quarter. Am I supposed to cry for Argentina because the billionaire son-in-law? I mean, the guy married well, man. He threw $9 million in his own campaign in 2010, I believe.
That was his money.
Well, that was actually his corporation money, which would be an illegal campaign contribution. Technically, CJ, he probably broke campaign finance laws, but I know a law and order guy like you'd want to hold him accountable, right?
Yep. What about Black Lives Matter leaders? Are you going to hold them accountable?
Why? Are they elected to some public office like U.S. Senate?
And millions of dollars. And
I didn't give him any of those millions, man. Did you give millions to Ron Johnson?
I've donated my fair share, let me tell you.
How about, you know, I mean, if we're going to talk about giving money away, CJ, I mean, what about the, you know, Trump University? I mean, Trump had to pay a $26
million
million
tuition.
Right. I mean, that's problematic, right?
Well,
probably got a few Trump steaks, some Trump vodka.
You Democrats are going to bury this country. Yeah, we're going to pay for everybody's schooling. Brilliant. You know what?
That is brilliant, CJ. Why wouldn't we want to pay for people to be smarter and better educated?
Do you think we should pay for students to go to school up through 12th grade, up till they're 18 years old? Do you think that's a wise decision?
Well, I think people should have a choice in where they go. But do you know how much?
No, but you didn't answer the question. CJ, the question is, do you think we should use taxpayer dollars to fund students up to the age of 18 to go through K through 12 high school? Do you think that's a good idea, good use of the taxpayer dollars? Is that a good use of the taxpayer dollars?
$1,000. Every man, woman, and child owe the government right now.
Is that a good use of the? I mean, of course, he's not answering the question, because what are you going to do, CJ? Say no. We want a dumbed down population, CJ? Is that what you want? Come on, man. You know it's a good idea. And if it's okay up through the 12th grade, then what is your stopping point? Why all of a sudden does it become problematic for continued education, CJ? Or trade training?
If he stopped at 8th grade, it's good enough for CJ. It should be good enough for the students of the great state of Wisconsin. IT, CJ, I heard you nearly graduated high school. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. These are the jokes, people. You know, I'm trying to do it Al Franken style.
Is that it? You got a better delivery, I got to tell you.
I'm good enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. 844-967-2789.
I don't know about that.
If you love them enough to turn off your music and pretend like their music is your music,
this is Mommy's jam.
then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Let's play it again.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Spruce up your home with soy candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents. Did you know our candle jars are also double old-fashioned glasses? That's right, buy a candle and you get a free cocktail glass. Check out our blog at wiscohomegoods.com/blog for more information. That's wiscohomegoods.com/blog.
The radio show your mother warned you about.
Actual tyranny of a dictator. Dictator's going to dictate Putin. And what did Trump do? Trump kneeled to the man, embarrassing Republicans. And you're still with the guy? This is your front runner in 2024? You've been smoking some of Mike Lindell's crack. What are you thinking?
They're the GCCCP. We are the Devil's Advocates.
Live weekday afternoons from 3 to 6.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstad at the Monaco Brewing Company, and I am proud to introduce you to Choice, our new pink grapefruit flavored hard seltzer. Choice was made in collaboration with Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin, and 5% of the proceeds from every can goes to support them and their fight for reproductive freedom. Choice Hard Seltzer tastes great and comes in at only 105 calories per can. Go to our website, MonaccoBrewingCompany.com, to find where you can buy Choice Hard Seltzer.
The Devil's Advocates, political commentary from the back of the class.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, the last segment of this Hump Day Happy Hour. You can join us at 844-967-2789.
You know, I was so insistent that I got to speak first. I forgot what I was going to say. Let's go to the phones. 844-967-2789. But
must
at
have
least
been
I got
very important.
first crack at not saying anything. Kind of like CJ. Anyways, I know it was important, but I'll get back to it. Darren from Madison, you're always important when you call the Devil's Advocates. Welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Darren.
Hey, guys. Yeah, I just want to follow up on CJ's comments. I'm sure I apologize to his wife because she's in a world of hurt right now. I'm sure he's a real gaslighter, that guy. But anyways, going back to him not answering about about public education. I mean, I personally think that yes, you know, public education should, everything should be paid for, yes, like it is. But you have to improve public education. You got to have the right people teaching our society. And if you look at it, I mean, you look at it bigger picture, right? I'm a recruiter. I talk to people all the time, all day. And it's crazy how close we are to becoming, we're on the path of becoming a third world country. A lot of it stems from education.
How so, Darren?
We are not very smart.
You mean the applicants that you're trying to recruit are, let's just say, not qualified for the jobs they seek?
No. I'm just saying, I talk about things with my candidates, just different things like, banter talk. Not, this is when I have good relationships with people, and it's more or less basically, we're down a path where, you look at some of these other countries, throughout the world. I mean, the education system in the United States, it's definitely public education is falling apart, but you need to pay these people more money. You need to find the right people and you need to pay them more money. Just like that. I mean, it's education, and then, people that are police officers, medics, that are public safety. It's like those two positions, you got to pay them more money and you got to find the right people, because
but Darren, I totally agree with what you say, but you realize that's exactly what Scott Walker utilized Act 10 to go after: the teachers, the fire department. I mean, I know he exempted a couple of the unions initially from the worst of Act 10, but effectively he was sticking it to the public sector unions, and he was making them the villains. Hey, you don't have that Cadillac insurance. You don't get your summers off like those horrid teachers.
Yeah, I didn't vote for him.
Don did.
Darren, let me ask you, from the quality of the candidates, do you have a sense that perhaps, and this is my impression, but I want you to clarify if you would, that the degrees, a bachelor degree, a master's degree, whatever the degrees may be, certificates, whatever, are watered down, or not as valuable perhaps as they once were?
I would say yes, and the reason being is just because there's a shortage, and it's not because there's not enough people working. So many people, like a lot of these Republicans, especially, I feel like Republican men above 50 usually is the age, is what I've the demographic, the conversations I've had at bars at different places.
Guys like CJ, let's say.
Yeah, like CJ, exactly. So these people that it's the people that I'm talking to a sense, the degrees, but no, there's just not enough people working, right? So many baby boomers, people that are, have worked corporate America, and so I specifically, work with IT people, right? So there's just a lot of baby boomers that are retiring. People know their worth, the counter offer is real when somebody accepts a position and they put their 2 weeks in at a job and then they're not, and then they tell their employer, hey, I'm done. And then they're like, hey, we want to pay you an extra $20,000 or $25,000. People will take it. People know their worth a lot more now. So I feel like the degree is of less value. So,
Darren, sorry to cut you short. We got a few more waiting, and I don't want you putting thoughts in my staff's head. Don't be recruiting away the good people here, Darren. A few more to get to. Want to get to all of you at 844-967-2789. Thank you, Darren. Welcome, Jack from Merrimack. What do you got?
Hey, Jack.
Yeah, well, how are we going to pay for all these extensive teachers and college education? It isn't really hard to figure out.
Well, we're going to have to tax some rich people, Jack.
Yeah, that's right. Bernie Sanders basically had figured it out, though, pretty well. He essentially said you could finance public college for everybody that qualifies and wanted to go. I think the figure he came up with was about a quarter of what the Pentagon got as an unrequested increase in their finances for that same year that he proposed that idea.
But Jack, every guy that ever paid off his student loan debt or never got the chance to go to college like those elitist Democratic neighbors of his, they resent even the whiff of the fact that someone didn't have to pay back a loan that maybe they paid back. I mean, Jack, they resent people if other people get something they don't get.
Well, there is some truth to that. Now, I'm a retired educator, just so you know where I'm coming from for this. So here's my idea. You figure out, and you can adjust it for inflation, figure out the cost increase since Reagan term, because that was essentially when the support for public colleges and universities stopped or actually got cut back and so on. My son will have ended up paying about $50,000 for a degree, and that's just for tuition at the University of Wisconsin System School.
Yeah,
and there's no way that public education at that level even should cost anywhere near that much. And so you figure out the inflation-adjusted difference, and you forgive that amount of student loan.
Jack, it sounds like you're doing math on the radio, man. You're starting to lose me. I got to keep moving down the phones.
Jack. Thank you, man.
Good ideas, though. 844-967-2789. Matt from Mount Horeb, welcome, sir. What do you got for us?
Hey, Matt.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking the call. No offense. I respect both of your opinions quite a bit, but it doesn't really matter what you say on this race. Mandela Barnes, Milwaukee has the biggest population in the state. Milwaukee has the biggest black population in the state. And Mandela Barnes already swept one Scott hole out of the state. I think he's the man to sweep Ronnie Jagov where he belongs.
Well said, Matt. Let's sneak in. Wisco Paul, how you doing, Paul? 30 seconds.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, the GOP don't like themselves or anybody, but I got to say, Ronnie Jagoff, that's cool, man. I'm not saying any more than that. That is just totally cool.
I like that one perhaps more than Big Live Becky. Thank you to all the fine guests. Appreciate it, Wisco Paul. Thank you to Al Franken. And the tickets are sold out at the Barrymore. So if you didn't get yours, you're SOL. And thank you also to Charles Franklin, to Dominic, to Evan, all of you for listening. Now, please stick around. Native Roots Radio, then the Up North podcast with Kirk Bankstead, Pat Kreitlow, and Sarah Yakub. Have a great night, everyone. Do it again tomorrow.
Hi, this is Brad from